Uncle Weezy in the spot, bringing stats like a kingpin. MMA knowledge meets his nephews all lean in. Breaking down fights, codes that daddy supreme on. Just a tip show, he's cooking up a dream. Uncle Weezy, he the man. Dropping fight facts, got it all on hand. He the stat attack grand. MMA guru, more than just a fan. Wanna know the numbers? Weezy got them cataloged. From the fighters reach down to how many times they dog. Just a tip living, breaking it down slick. Hit you with the knowledge, won't miss a single trick. Uncle Weezy, he the man. Dropping fight facts, got it all on hand. He the stat attack grand. MMA guru, more than just a fan. Balls deep predictions, he be making those calls. Getting in the details, opponents feeling small. From jabs to takedowns, got the whole fight ID. Uncle Weezy spitting truth, no lie, keep it G. Blow the horn, blow the horn. Stat Daddy Weezy not showing no scorn. Fight Night Kingdom, he wearing the crown. Break it down for the peeps, never looking like a clown.
Oh, yes. What's going on, everybody? It has been a while. I did not do any content last week. The week before that, I believe, was a week off. We haven't seen each other for a minute. Welcome back. It's time for Balls Deep breakdowns of every fight on the UFC Vegas 94 card that's going to be headlined by two very handsome ladies in Jandiroba and Amanda Lemos. Great main event. Really solid 12-fight card from top to bottom, and I'm ready to chop it up with you guys here, break down all these fights in balls deep detail, find all the spots that are sticking out, and find ways to stack cashed tickets like flapjacks. I hope all you guys are doing well today. I've had a rough last week and a half. The dog that we rescued, my girlfriend and I, had an unprovoked attack against my girlfriend. Bit her face. We had to go to the bit her face 3 times, destroyed her nose, opened up her cheek and her neck. We had to go to the emergency room. We've been to the plastic surgeon a couple of times. Luckily, her scars are healing up pretty well. The plastic surgeon says that things are going well enough that she should be able to heal up after a couple of months, almost to 100%. So we're happy with that, but we had to euthanize the dog, and that was probably one of the worst things that I've ever had to do. It was absolutely brutal. But I'm just glad that we're past that. We're in the healing stage, and it feels good to be back here with you guys, breaking down fights, talking UFC, finding the winning bets. Really rough couple of weeks here, but looking forward to starting the healing process. And that starts with me getting back to work and doing content for you guys. So I'm looking forward to breaking down these fights with you guys. All the stats that you're going to see on today's show, you can find them at the Patreon link. You can also find them at the Dub Club link that's in the description of this video. That is the best way to support my work. I appreciate each and every person that is signed up for the Patreon. We have the $25 probability tier where you see not only the full advanced stats for both fighters involved in a fight, but the matchup stats where you get to see them side by side, compared to each other and compared to the divisional benchmarks to see who's above average, below average, which fighters have deficiencies in what categories compared to their opponents. We have the over-under betting model. We have the prop betting model, all kinds of DraftKings, FanDuel, prize picks, and underdog fantasy stats if you like playing those kind of over-under games and prop betting markets. We got really everything that you could possibly need. So please consider joining that Patreon. It supports the work and makes sure that I keep showing up here on YouTube for free for you guys. And it's going to help you make better gambling decisions in the long run. We were coming off a losing week last week. I didn't do any content. I didn't do any videos other than stat diggers at the beginning of the week. And I placed 2 1-unit bets. They both lost. It was the fight doesn't go to decision for the Fremd versus Petrosky fight. Petrosky had a chance to finish that arm triangle in the second, but other than that, he kind of just laid on top of him, and Fremd did not stop one takedown and did not get up once. The fight just cruised the full 15 minutes. That one got hit, and I tried 1 unit on the Drew Dober money line. I kind of felt like there was just too many narrative issues against Gene Silva in that spot. 2 weeks between fights, 2 weight cuts in 14 days, 2 fights in 14 days, up a weight class at elevation against a much more experienced and much bigger opponent. And Gene Silva pulled it off. What a performance, man. What a fight that was. Congratulations to Gene Silva, man. That dude is really going places, and he's looked phenomenal so far. So yeah, down 2 units, but I didn't do any content. It was just a kind of like a week to help my girlfriend through what she was going through as a result of the bite. But anyway, you guys, what's up with you guys in the chat here? We've got my guy Olajuwon Dream in the room saying, "Oi!" We've got Dix Insider saying, "All hail the Prophet Weezy." We got M.A. Laren saying, "Hello, can't catch you live at this time, but once again, thank you for the work and wish a speedy recovery to your partner. Hope all of you are well. We're starting that healing process, my man. So I appreciate you checking in." And JP Taylor saying, "Godspeed to you and yours, Unc. Looking forward to hearing you opine on the fights this week." And that is what we're about to do here today. We got Litz in the room saying, "Oi, what is up, Litz?" We got J-Bone saying, "Whoa, an early stream. Hell yeah." "Oi, what is up, J-Bone?" We got TH in the room saying, "Oi." We've got Remdog in the room saying, "Welcome back, Unc. Missed chatting about fights with you last week." "Oi, what is up, Remdog?" Benino saying, "Oi." We've got E. Mendoza in the room. "What is up, my man? Good to see you hanging out in here. Super clean," saying, "Damn." We got J-Bone saying, "Hope the recovery is going well, Weezy." It is going well. The plastic surgeon's happy with what he saw. We went to see the plastic surgeon for the second time yesterday. So, things are trending in the right direction for Sonny. So the recovery's starting on its way. We got Matt saying, best wishes, Weezy." Thank you, Matt. Shipley Glass saying, "Sorry to hear that. Hope she heals fast and well. Appreciate you, Shipley. Sorry about the dog and girlfriend, Weezy. Glad to catch you live for a change. Good to see Chicken Dinner hanging out in here. One of the best Twitter accounts that I follow. Love the bets, love the food picks, everything from Chicken Dinner. Good to see you hanging out. Remdog in the room saying, "We will continue to keep you and your lady in our thoughts and prayers, Weezy." Truly appreciate you, Remdog. Thank you for the kind words. A Real Fight Pick saying, "Handsome motherfucker championship." Yes, absolutely. This is going to be a great, handsome main event. Tone Miggins saying, "Let's go, Weezy." What's up, Tone? Good to see you hanging out in here. Benino wishing you a full and quick recovery. Thank you so much. We've got Dixon saying, "Smash the thumbs up." Appreciate you, Dixon. We got Polnix in the room saying, "Oi, what is up, Tim?" We've got Benino in the room saying, "Gene Silva is him. That dude is him. He is so good." We got Helder Sturari in the room saying, "Hey, Weezy, I'm working here right now in Brazil on the UFC office and listening to you. Great job as always. Hope a fast recovery for your girlfriend." Thank you so much, Helder. Appreciate the kind words. We got SD Crusader. Gonna be a long time before we see Gene and Even Money again. You got that right, dude. Somebody told me that, SD Crusader, either in the comments or on a live stream, and I was like, yeah, it's going to be a long time before we see Drew Dober at Even Money against a much less experienced opponent up a weight class. Boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong. Gene Silva is him. Pickle Kush saying, "Wee's brother, I'm so sorry. That's rough, dude." I appreciate you, Pickle Kush. Thanks for hanging out, man. We've got Yes Freak saying, "Weezy, sending love, respect, and support. Scottsdale, Arizona, stand up. Let's go, Yes Freak." And ring a ding ding. We got Flo in the room saying, "Next round on me." Cheers, Weezy. Thank you so much for the donation, Flo. Truly appreciate you keeping the lights on here in your Uncle Weezy's studio. Really, really appreciate it. We got Glenbot in the room saying, "Sup, gentlemen." We got Blom Dog saying, "Oi, Unc, sorry. You and more so the missus had to go through that. Hope recovery goes well." Thank you so much, Blom Dog. Thank you for the kind words. E Mendoza is in the room with the salute and the fist. Appreciate you, E Mendoza. We got Simone Maheta saying, or Maretta, probably from Italy, live following Unk. Let's make some cash, Simone. Appreciate you. Tim saying, damn, that's awful. Hope your girlfriend is doing better, man. She is getting better. Glimbot saying, best wishes to all of you. And Ms. Yes. Excuse me. Super Clean saying, what up, Doe? Hey, Unk. Hey, look, when I don't bet, I don't always go for the best price. I just want to win, so it could be plus 450. Yeah, dude, it doesn't matter. You know, I mean, it just a lot of people just want that bet to cash. You know, they don't really care about anything else. Prayers for you and your girlfriend, says Matt. Appreciate you, Matt. Super Clean saying, love to you and your lady, though. Appreciate you, my man. Benino saying, Gene Silva versus Diego Lopez. I wonder if that's official yet, because I'm hearing that that's what Gene Silva wants, or I think he was calling for that fight. That would be really interesting. Moy's in the room saying, does Unk like big asses? Yes, I definitely do. That might be the Norwegian kroner. What is that? It's 100 of them though, and I truly appreciate Moy's. Yeah, and I do like, yeah, big, my man, like Aylin Perez big, like Norma Dumont big, like Tracy Cortez, you know, non-weight cutting big. That's really what I like. Yes, absolutely. We got 138 MMA in the room saying, Weezy, what's your favorite place to get a pizza in Chicago? I go just outside of Chicago to a couple of different places. One of them is Mr. V's Pizza on Elston and Forest Park Avenue in Forest Park neighborhood of Chicago. The other one is Barnaby's, which is in Niles, which is borders up against Chicago. And Barnaby's Niles is where I've been going lately, because that's right by somebody else that I hang out with. So that's probably my favorite tavern style pizza. And then for deep dish, I used to work at Lou Malnati's when I was going back to school and do deliveries for them. And I mean, they've consistently got a phenomenal product when it comes to deep dish pizza. But my favorite is the thin crust, and Barnaby's is my favorite. The one in Niles, the best tavern style thin crust pizza in the Chicagoland area, if you ask me. Good to see Tyler hanging out in here. We got Desi saying, missed you, Weezy. Hope all is good with the fam. Appreciate you, Desi. We're getting better over here. Super Clean saying, I'm putting 100, maybe 150 on a plus 450. Okay. We got Dixon saying, Weezy, I've been having night terrors from Charles Johnson's Van KO. If CJ wins by decision, I win $500 instead of 50. Yeah, that hurts. And you know, Charles Johnson has always had phenomenal cardio, but this was a case where I just didn't see a third round finish coming, because Josh Van's cardio is mind blowing. It's so good. So that I just didn't think that I didn't think that he was going to be like finishing Van in the third round, because I thought Van would be the one actually pushing the pace and getting Charles on the back foot. But he came out, landed massive shots, and got Van out of there. 3 wins in a row for Charles Johnson, the pride of East St. Louis, and the leader, the gang leader of the Skullet gang. So yeah, Charles Johnson, stand up. 3 straight wins, guys, on an absolute. Oh yes, Norway. There we go. And that's $20 in real money, says JK. Yeah, man. I mean, talk about a ring, a ding ding from Moy's Audio. Thank you so much, dude. Really, truly, for the donation. All donations to the show mean a ton. And I have no idea how much money that is in American, but I truly appreciate the kind words, man, and the donation to the show. It means a lot. We got Mushroom in the room saying, what's up, Uncle Weezy? And he's saying, what's up to Dixon? What's up to Glenn? What's up to Moyes? We got time to clip this segment. Got him, says Moyes. You got it, dude. If you set me up, hey, man, I said I did it to myself, man. I just had to admit it, all right? And we've got Blom Dog saying, this guy knows the Norwegian krone abbreviation. Ha! Weezy, a wealth and breadth of knowledge. I was taking a shot, man. I thought Moyes was from Scandinavian area, but I wasn't exactly sure. So, and we got JP Taylor saying Pequod's Pizza. Pequod's Pizza is also excellent, and their thin crust pizza has got like a thicker thin crust, but it's also very good in my opinion. Lose is delicious, says Shipley Glass. And Blomdog said, my kid wants to know if you played video games. Dude, I grew up playing video games, but not like until like sophomore or junior year of college. I remember at the fraternity house, we used to play Sega back in the day, like Sega Hockey 93, 94, 95, NBA Jam. We would play Tecmo Bowl on Nintendo. But like literally, that's when my video game experience ended. As soon as I was like getting towards the end of college and then started working out of school, I didn't have time for video games anymore, but I used to play them all the time growing up. Moyes with the mushrooms there we go, man. And saying, what's up to chicken dinner? And he says, Moyes says something muffin. I can't see what that, those three purple things there. I don't know what muffin is, but appreciate you, Moyes. And Mushroom is sneak watching at work. We got Pickle Kush saying he live bet Johnson at plus 1,200. And Desi, you've asked this before. Not really. No, I don't know what it is, but some people have talked about it before. But if I'm going to watch content, it's going to be some of the best content creators out there. And there's a lot of good ones. So I don't watch the MMA Clown Show. Oh, Blueberry Muffin. Blueberry Muffin. There we go. That's what it has to be. And Blueberry, oh, dude, I love Blueberry Muffins. Dude, that's a great breakfast food with some coffee, some black coffee. And Omni saying, oi. And we got Dixon saying, last question before we start, Prophet. Are you a rum raisin kind of guy? And do you prefer a waffle cone? No, definitely not a rum raisin kind of guy. Like if I'm going to do something like with peanut butter, or I'm going to do something with caramel. That's when I'm working with ice cream. And if I could get both in the same thing, like a peanut butter cup, ice cream is probably what I'm going with, man. Anything with peanut butter. Yeah. Blueberry muffin. But you guys, we've got so much work to do. And if you want to get access to these stats that are on the screen, check out the Patreon. Patreon.com/Uncle Weezy. You get the matchup stats for the $25 a month. You get the over under and the prop betting models and the in-depth fighter stats for significant striking, distance striking, clinch and ground striking, offensive and defensive grappling stats, all your offensive and defensive DraftKings, FanDuel, Prize Picks, underdog stats, every fight that they've had at the UFC level and pre-UFC, and all the matchup stats, all the divisional benchmarks, compare them to each other. Check out the Patreon, $10 a month for just the advanced stats package, $25 a month to get the betting models and access to the subscriber-only content, which is usually Balls Deep Breakdown, which I'm putting out on the internet for free this week, and also Probability, which is subscriber and Patreon only, where we go through fight by fight, look at all of the betting models, predictions for potential lines, and we find value and stack the best bets fight by fight. And my guy DFS by the Numbers hosts that show for me so I can concentrate on reading the models live. So it's a great show. If you want access to the subscriber-only content, check out the Patreon. But let's get into these fights. The curtain jerker, Mohammed Usman, -130. Thomas the Train Petersen at +110. Fight doesn't go to decision, plus money here. Bookies say this one sees the scorecards about 60% of the time. So fight doesn't go to decision, plus money here for a heavyweight fight at +155. So let me get my notes up here on the screen for you guys. And we got the Motor versus the Train. And Mohammed the Motor Usman is 35 years old. He's 10-3 as a pro, and he's 3-1 in the UFC so far. Mohammed's the younger brother of former UFC welterweight champion Kamaru Usman. He's coming off his first UFC loss. It was a 29-28 unanimous decision loss against Mick Parkin. He was a +125 underdog in that fight, and that happened back in March. Prior to that, he was on a 3-fight winning streak, and he had a stint in the Ultimate Fighter House, which is how he punched his ticket to the UFC by winning the Ultimate Fighter finale by second-round knockout over Zach Paunga as a +230 underdog back in August of 2022. After that, he won 2 straight, both by unanimous decision against Junior Tafa. He was a -105 underdog in that fight, so almost a pick 'em. And he won against Fat Collier as a minus 145 favorite. Now, Usman will be fighting Thomas the Train Petersen. He's a wrestler from Minnesota. He's 29 years old, 8-2 as a professional, and he's 0-1 in the UFC so far. Thomas got his UFC contract by submitting the morbidly obese Chandler Cole in the second round on Dana White's Contender Series as a massive 750, minus 750 favorite in that fight. And then he lost his UFC debut against Jamal Pogues. That was a 29-28 unanimous decision, and he let down bettors as a favorite in that fight, coming in at about minus 165. An interesting heavyweight fight to start off the card. Now, Usman is a minus 150 favorite or a minus 130 favorite over Thomas Petersen, who's the plus 110 underdog here. The money has been coming in on Petersen throughout the week here, as Mohammed Usman did open up as a slightly bigger favorite here. Now, Usman's going to have the size advantage here over Tom. He's going to be 1 inch taller, but he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. In addition, he is going to be the more experienced fighter, having 3 more professional fights in almost an hour more of cage time in 2.5 more years as a professional fighter. And Mohammed also has the UFC experience advantage with 3 more fights and 35 more minutes of octagon time. I believe Usman's going to be the better striker here. I think he's going to be a little bit better at range. Petersen does not do a lot at range. We had 12 minutes of distance striking time at range to look at for Petersen in the Jamal Pogues fight, but he was only attempting 6.7 distance strikes per minute. Now, he was landing at a 2/3 rate, so he was very accurate, but you really want to see this guy be a little bit more active at range and throw a little more volume, because if he's throwing a little bit more volume, he can kind of use that to maybe set up some entries on his takedowns. But Usman, over a larger sample size, hasn't been very accurate at 36%, but he's landing 4.4 significant strikes per minute. He's absorbing 5.6. He does have 1 knockdown, and he has not been knocked down, so he's shown a little bit of durability, but he did get cracked a few times by Junior Tafa and wound up having to panic wrestle in that fight. But both of these guys out-control their opponents at a pretty good clip here. You could see Usman with 30% and 1.7% control time allowed, and Petersen with 18.5% and less than 1% control time allowed. And we got Mohammed Usman having the strength of schedule advantage here, as he's got 3 more fights at the UFC level. He fought solid regional scene competition, and he was in the Ultimate Fighter house and won that competition. So I'd say Mohammed is the more tested fighter at this point. But Thomas Petersen, 6 years younger, he's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. He's definitely the better finisher. Thomas has got a 100% finish rate as a pro. He's got 7 knockouts and 1 submission, and the vast majority of his knockouts come from ground and pound. So he's a nasty individual to deal with if he takes you down and gets to a dominant position. And Tom's the better wrestler in this fight. He's an elite wrestler for a heavyweight. He's been wrestling since the age of 3. He's a 2-time Minnesota high school state champion and also an NAIA national champion at Iowa Central, the school that started the MMA careers of John Jones, Cain Velasquez, and Colby Covington, Phil Hawes. Thomas has great open mat entries on his single leg, and he does a good job of getting body lock trips and throws. Once he gets on top, he's savage with his ground and pound, and when he's on the mat, he really does a great job of maintaining his position while landing strikes, and that ground and pound allows him to advance position. And if he gets to a dominant position, it's usually just a matter of time before he gets your back, pounds you out, or both. So it's an interesting heavyweight matchup to start off the card. Both these guys are coming off a loss, and both these guys have pretty similar skill sets. These guys both do their best work when they're getting takedowns, top control, and landing ground and pound. I see this fight being fairly close on the feet, so I do think it's going to come down to who can dictate where the fight takes place. Usman does have a lot of advantages on paper here. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's got a 5-inch reach advantage, he's more experienced overall and in the UFC, and he probably has a small striking advantage. Plus, he's fought the better brand of competition. But Thomas Petersen's 6 years younger, he's a southpaw, and he's a bona fide finisher, and his wrestling and top control are very good. Which guy gets the takedowns? Who has better takedown defense and conditioning? We know Usman is known for his motor and he can push a wrestling heavy pace, but I doubt he wants to do that against Thomas. Mohammed should have the striking advantage, and he definitely looks to only pursue the wrestling when he has a clear advantage there. Neither one of these guys, because I think that he's afraid of getting tired, like a lot of heavyweights are. If you wrestle too much, trying to wrestle 250-pound men is going to be quite exhausting. So I think that Mohammed, who's averaging less than one takedown per 15 minutes, as you can see right there, is somebody that kind of like he really only wrestles when he has to. So neither one of these guys looks particularly solid at distance, but I do think Petersen's pressure will look good optically. And if he can make Usman wrestle and wear on him early, he could find success as the fight goes on. I think this line is pretty accurate. Usman should be a small favorite here due to the advantages that he has on paper. But I think this fight is going to play out close. And the value side is probably Petersen. And I do think a finish-only prop for Petersen is a solid look. I got it at plus 120 on Bet Online Sportsbook. And you can see here that, he's finished all 8 of his professional wins, Thomas Petersen, while Usman only has a 60% finish rate. And Petersen, I think if he does get on top and starts landing ground and pound, he's going to be very live to finish this fight. While Mohammed Usman is not really a guy that has a ton of power at this level. I mean, he knocked out Zach Pauga, but that guy's awful. And he was very close to being finished by Junior Tafa a couple of times in that fight. He won a very boring unanimous decision against Fat Collier. And, he lost a unanimous decision 29-28 to Park. And I just don't see Usman as a finishing threat, while Petersen has finished 100% of his wins inside the distance. And I also think that Tom Petersen, with Usman being 235 pounds instead of Jamal Pogues, his previous opponent, who was probably cut weight to make 265, I think it's going to be easier for Petersen in the small cage to get takedowns against Mohammed Usman, who's going to come in 30 pounds lighter, 35 pounds lighter potentially than what Jamal Pogues came in at. And even when Petersen did get Pogues down, Pogues stayed there, and Petersen landed a lot of ground and pound and won that round. So I think it'll be easier for Petersen to wrestle here. I think the small cage and the pressure that he puts on his opponents will look good optically to the judges. I think that he's got most of the finishing equity in this fight, despite the fact that his finish-only prop is plus money. So I like Thomas Petersen. I'm going to pick him to win by decision, but I also have a 2-unit bet on Thomas Petersen's finish-only prop at plus 120. So we'll make picks on the Lemos versus Jandiroba card, and we're going to start off this card with Thomas the Train Petersen to win by decision. But I do think that if Petersen does get takedowns and gets to a dominant position, that a finish will be in play for him. Let's see what you guys are saying in the Chizat here. We got Lane in the room saying, hi, Weezy, new viewer here. Love the show. Thank you for hanging out, Lane. Appreciate you, my man. Good to have some new viewers in the room here. We got AJ Worse in the room saying, leader of men. Appreciate you, AJ. We got E. Mendoza saying, I don't know about a prop here. You like the Usman money line, though? Got you. Yeah, for props, I think Thomas Petersen's finish props are underpriced, and I like the finish only, obviously, because I think he's got most of the finishing equity here, even though it's being priced as if he has less than half of it. But that's what I'm going with. We got Yes Freak saying, click the like button, family. Appreciate you, Yes Freak. We got SD Crusader saying, Thomas the Tank Engine. You got that right. We got JP saying Thomas the Tank Engine was just sitting there to be taken, and he goes with the train. Yeah, he went with the train. Oh, well. We can't make him choose his own nickname. And we got J Jack saying, what's good, Weezy? Good to have you back. Was Duho Choi a hyped up prospect before he had to take time off? Oh, yeah, he was an extremely hyped up prospect. He won his first 3 fights by knockout, I believe. He was on a roll. They had him out there against Cub Swanson, who's a legend. They had him out there against Jeremy Stevens, who had something like 33 UFC fights. So, yeah, he was a very hyped up prospect, but like a lot of South Koreans, they have to take this 3-year break in their MMA career because South Korea has mandatory military service. So we've seen Choi take a lot of breaks between fights and have some very long layoffs. Sammy saying, I just came home from all-you-can-eat sushi. Let's make some bets now. Usman wins easy first fight. Okay. We got J-Bone saying this is Usman or pass, in my opinion. JP Taylor saying the Pogues fight and the poor decision making on his nickname make Thomas fade. Usman, no, it's pretty much a coin toss. Yeah, that's the thing. Like the Pogues fight, dude, I think Pogues is way better than Muhammad Usman. He's a way better striker, and I think he's a better wrestler. So I don't know where Muhammad Usman beats Jamal Pogues, but at least Thomas Petersen, being the smaller guy, was able to get a takedown, and he was able to keep the striking exchanges somewhat close. But I definitely scored that fight 29-28 for Jamal Pogues. But I just think that this is a step down for Thomas Petersen, because I think Pogues should be like minus 200 against a guy like Usman. I don't think Usman's better than him anywhere. Usman, though, is pretty much a coin toss, and I agree with that. I think it's closer to a coin toss. Shouldn't this be 5 rounds at the top of the card? No chance, dude. Weezy, so you're telling me Petersen is a legit wrestler, not like a wishy-washy BJJ grappler? Very interesting. Yeah, dude, he's a national champion college wrestler, NAIA from Iowa Central, 2-time high school state champion in Minnesota. So this guy's, and he was on the mat since he was 3 years old. So yeah, the dude is a legit wrestler, but he's got to put together a complete MMA skill set, and that still remains to be seen whether he's going to be able to do that. We got Real Fight Pig saying Petersen wrestled at North Dakota State is the rumor. I don't know if he did or not. I definitely know he wrestled at Iowa State. Not Iowa State, Iowa Central, not Iowa State. We got Anakin Skywalker in the room with the picture of Ignacio Bahamondes there. I think Usman can KO Petersen. I hope he doesn't, because I'll be out 2 units if he does. Petersen last fight didn't have any success in the wrestling. Well, he got a takedown in the first round, but like I said, Jamal Pogues, look at him in that fight. His ass is about a mile and a half around. He was huge. He weighed in at 265 and a half on weigh-in day. Muhammad Usman weighs in at 235, you guys. So I think it's going to be easier for him to wrestle a lighter guy in Usman. Volkan in the room saying, oi, and saying, I think Anakin is right. I hope Anakin's wrong, Volkan, because then I'll be out 2 units. But we'll see, man. Anakin saying, what's up to Volkan? You sell us in the room. We got, let's go, Anakin. Grateful dude in the room saying, oh, yes. We got, you sell us, Volkan, Anakin Lane. Let's go. Blonde Dog saying Petersen points is the pick for me too. You think sub or inside the distance is worth a look at 1,000 and plus 380? Yes, I do. I think that Petersen has more finishing equity in this spot than Usman. And I think if Petersen is able to get takedowns and get to a dominant position, that his ground and pound is phenomenal, and he might be able to find a submission or a knockout. So I don't mind that inside the distance at plus 380 for a quarter unit bet. That would if it won, return just under a unit. I think it's not a bad look at all. Let's see here. We got Kristen in the room saying, oi, great to see you back, and I hope your woman is okay. She is healing up, Kristen. Appreciate you asking. We got Blom Dog saying, Cub derailed his entire career with that beatdown. That was a crazy fight. Anakin saying, Choi gave Kyle Nelson a tough fight. Yes, he did. And this is the Choi that had all that damage. Yes. We got Mohammed in the room saying, oi, what is up? We got Anakin. I'm doing good, bro. Hoping I do well this weekend compared to the Denver card. Bro, you bet 2 units on Petersen. I wanted to bet Usman. I bet 2 units on the Petersen finish only prop. The finish only. So if it goes to decision, I get my money back and it's a push. So that bet only loses or cashes if there's a finish in the fight. So a lot of these finish only props wind up being washes, and the bookies have this fight going to decision 60% of the time. So probably more than half the time it just winds up being a wash. He went 18-10 at North Dakota State as a freshman in 2013. 18-10 as a freshman in college isn't bad, dude. Yeah, I think Usman is live for a decision. He could KO too because Petersen doesn't like to get punched. Yeah, he doesn't, but Usman just doesn't land enough and with enough power, I don't think. 197 is where he wrestled. Okay, cool. All right, you guys, let's move on to this next fight. It is going to be Luana Carolina versus Lucie Pudilova. We got Carolina, a slight favorite here at minus 120. We've got Lucie Pudilova at plus 100. Fight doesn't go to decision. Very big plus money here at plus 275. This is a sloppy women's flyweight fight that is projected to go to decision almost 80% of the time. So you got two ladies. You got Lucie Pudilova, who's 9-8 to the decision overall. But you got Luana Carolina, who's 6-2 to the decision overall. She's 4-1 to the decision at the UFC level, while Lucie Pudilova is 2 wins and 6 losses to the decision at the UFC level. And that does include a robbery decision loss to Jocelyn Edwards. She should be 3-5 to the decision, which looks a little bit better. But I do think that Luana Carolina is the rightful favorite here. I think she's fought the better brand of competition at the UFC level. I think that she's done a better job of winning minutes, not only with her striking, but with her anti-grappling. When her opponents try to take her down, she just has a better like you look at here, right? This is very interesting. Luana Carolina attempts less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes, but her opponents are attempting 5.5 against her. She stops the takedowns at 74% almost, and she still wins 43% of the control time positions in her fight. So she's strong in the clinch. She's good at getting back up when she does get taken down, and she's good at reversing positions when she is taken down. So Luana Carolina is strong in the clinch. She does a pretty good job of winning minutes, and she's just had more success winning minutes at the UFC level than Pudilova has, and that's because she's more accurate at distance. She's just as defensively responsible at distance. She does a better job of winning minutes and being efficient in the grappling exchanges. She's fought the better brand of competition. It's just that Lucie's a little more experienced overall and a little bit bigger, or I should say taller, than Luana Carolina is. But Carolina's going to have that 2-inch reach advantage. So I think that this is a sloppy fight, you guys. And I don't want to get too far into it because the judges are going to get involved probably 4 out of 5 times in this fight. And I think that these ladies are pretty well matched. Pudilova probably a little bit more likely to go to the offensive grappling here, but I don't think it's going to necessarily work. And I don't really fear Pudilova's striking at this level. I don't think she's going to be knocking ladies out. I mean, I think who's her knockout win against? Like Nadia Assam or something like that. Who cares? So, or was it Toledo? I don't remember who it was, but either way, it's really not that. Oh, Wu Yanan. Oh my God. Wu Yanan is just terrible. But it's not enough for me to care about whether she's going to actually get a win at this level, especially over Luana Carolina. So yeah, I'm going to pick Luana Carolina to win this one by decision, but I'm not going to get anywhere near betting it because it's going to be a greasy decision. The judges are going to get involved, and I think that these ladies are fairly well matched. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat about this one. We got JP locked in Luana at plus 105, okay, for 1.5 units. She just has to make weight now. Yes. Yeah, that is going to be key. We got Lucie is moving down when Luana should be going up. Either way, Luana is better. Yeah, I think Luana is better too, and I think she's fought the better brand of competition, and she's done a better job of winning minutes at the UFC level. Real Fight Pick says he feels like Pudilova outstrikes strikers who can't wrestle due to pressure. Yeah, and that's a good thing. When you're well-rounded, you can kind of craft your game plan to fit where your opponents are weak. So I think it's not a bad look, but like I said, I don't want any of this. Luana takedown defense is 74%. Yeah, that's what I've got it at. 73.7%. She allows 1.5 takedowns on 5.5 attempts. We got Anakin Skywalker saying, I like Luana. She can surprise people for sure. And Blomdog saying Luana KO3 again. No, I don't think so. I mean, Lucie Pudilova's never been knocked out, and she's got 9 professional losses, and she's only been finished in one of them, and it was by submission. So she's very durable. And Luana Carolina, when she was knocked out by Molly McCann, that was a vicious elbow. I don't think that elbow doesn't knock out anybody else in the division too. I don't think either one of these ladies really has a durability problem, and I don't think either one of them is a major submission threat. I mean, Pudilova 2-1 to the sub as a pro, Carolina 1-1 to the sub as a pro, and these ladies are landing knockdowns on 0.4% and 0.2% of their significant strikes. So I don't think much of a power threat either way, and the conditioning is good enough, so I don't think that we're going to see a KO in this one, but you never know. It's women's MMA. Sometimes some freaky shit happens. But yeah, the pick is going to be Luana Carolina by decision for this fight. And I think I put that. I did. All right, cool. Next fight. Let's talk about Loik Radzhabov at -111 versus Trey Ogden at -109. Fight doesn't go to decision here. Plus money at +160. So let me get the stats up on the screen here for you guys. And let's talk about Loik Radzhabov and the trends of this fight. Okay. Loik Radzhabov, 32 years old, 18-5-1 as a pro, and he's 2-1 in the UFC so far. He's a well-rounded and well-tested fighter. He's got 5 wins by submission, 8 wins by knockout, and 5 wins by decision. Loik is fresh off a 3rd-round knockout victory over Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi. That was back in March, and he was a +150 underdog in that fight. And before that, he was finished in the 2nd round by knockout versus Mateusz Rombeski as a +125 underdog, a fight where Loik missed weight by 1.5 pounds. And then Radzhabov won his UFC debut. That was a barn burner of a fight against Esteban Ribovic. He won that one by unanimous decision as a -210 favorite. Loik's going to be fighting another well-rounded and well-tested veteran in Trey Ogden. Trey's 34 years old. He's 17-6 as a professional, and he's 2-2 with a no contest in the UFC, but he should absolutely be 3-2 in the UFC. Trey has put together 2 impressive performances in a row. His most recent win was over Kurt Holobaugh. That was a 30-27 unanimous decision, and Trey was a -150 favorite in that fight. Trey got 3 takedowns, and he racked up 11 minutes of control time against Kurt. Before that, he absolutely shaved the ass of Nick Moda, getting 3 takedowns, 4.5 minutes of control time, and he was about to finish with an arm triangle in the 3rd when referee error caused the fight to be stopped too soon, which wound up resulting the fight in a no contest. Before that, Trey lost a 30-27 unanimous decision against Ignacio Bahamondes. He was a big underdog at +300 in that fight. This is an interesting stylistic matchup. We got the raw power and the relentless offensive wrestling of Radzhabov versus the crafty coach/fighter on a hot streak in Ogden. Loik is currently a small favorite here over Trey Ogden, as we got, well, actually, it's pretty much as close to a pick'em as you can get. So the money has been coming in on Trey Ogden as the week has come on. Now, Loik Radzhabov is 2 years younger than Trey Ogden. He's going to have the durability advantage, in my opinion. Loik has only been finished once in 24 pro fights. I've seen him push through being tired and being hurt. He never quits on himself. He's got a ton of heart. I tend to think that Rombeski fight, that he came in with an injury or something, because Loik's never missed weight in his career. That's the only time he's ever missed weight. And he came out just looking flat. He had nothing for Rombeski. And then we saw Rombeski get absolutely fraud checked in his next fight when, as a massive favorite, he looked like okay at best. So I think that maybe the Rombeski fight was kind of like a one-off for Radzhabov, and he looked good against Ribovic, and a great what appeared to be maybe a little bit of a come from behind victory against Al Sawadi in round 3 last time out. This is going to be a fun one. But I think that Loik's probably going to be the more durable guy in addition to being 2 years younger here. He's only been finished once in 24 pro fights. So, I mean, I think that that's a good thing. And it was that Rombeski fight. So maybe that was a one-off. Maybe it wasn't, but something to just keep in mind. Loik's going to have the power advantage here. He's 8 wins and 1 loss to the KO as a pro, while Trey Ogden has never won by knockout in his entire pro career. Loik throws massive overhands. They help him set up entries on his takedown attempts, and sometimes they land with power and flatline their opponent. I think Loik's the better wrestler here. He's definitely the more active wrestler. He mixes in the wrestling, and his combination of big overhands that set up his single and double leg entries is a nice way to blend his combination of power and offensive wrestling. He's averaging 6.7 takedowns per 15 minutes on 11.7 attempts per 15. And he's outcontrolled his opponents 27% to 15.5%, winning over 63% of the control time positions in his fights. And the strength of schedule advantage, according to my metric, it goes to Loik Radzhabov. His metrics are better in the UFC than Trey's, but he also fought the better brand of competition outside the UFC, having fought in PFL, fighting for $1 million twice, and those were fights that were scheduled for 5 rounds against guys like Hausch Manfio, and I forget who the other one was. I think it was Natan Schulte, but so he's been tested at a much higher level than Trey Ogden has. Now, Trey's the bigger dude here. He's going to be 3 inches taller. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. So those are some nice advantages to have. He's got the UFC experience advantage here, having 2 more fights and about 40 more minutes of octagon time than Loik has. And the submission grappling advantage, in my opinion, does go to Trey Ogden, as Trey is 11 wins and 3 losses to the submission as a pro. He's a BJJ black belt with very dangerous minute and moment winning abilities in the grappling exchanges. He's shown in his last 2 fights versus Holobaugh and Moda that he can get takedowns and win a ton of minutes on the ground with top control and ground and pound. If you were to look at the advanced stats here for Ogden, you can see in these fights, 3 of 4 on his takedowns and 3 of 16 on his takedowns, but 669 seconds of control time in one of the fights and 268 in the other. So 937 seconds of control time in fights that lasted about 1,700. So he's controlling his opponents over 50% of his cage time in the last 2 fights. So we've definitely shown the ability on the Ogden side to win minutes with his grappling as well. But this should be an interesting matchup. Trey's a well-rounded fighter who watches a ton of tape on his opponents, and he comes up with well-thought-out game plans that highlight his strengths while exploiting the defensive weaknesses of his opponents. He can win minutes anywhere the fight goes, and he knows when to use what weapons. Trey is essentially 3-2 in the UFC so far, and his last 2 performances have been close to flawless. Loik Radzhabov, though, is the younger guy with the power and the wrestling advantages, and he's fought the better brand of competition in the UFC and on the regional scene. Trey Ogden's fights are hard to predict because you never know what weaknesses Trey is going to find. I think he knows what Loik does best. He's going to throw bombs and try to get takedowns and top control. We haven't seen Trey face any offensive wrestling yet in the UFC, so it'll be hard to know how he deals with the offensive wrestling of Radzhabov. I feel as if Loik has the most of the finishing equity here, as he's the more powerful guy on the feet by a serious margin, and the threat of his offensive wrestling sets up his ability to land the heavier, more eye-catching shots on the feet. As long as Loik doesn't get held on his back for long stretches of this fight, I think he probably does enough to win. I think a finish-only prop for Radzhabov is a cheeky play this week, and I'm going to lean to the Radzhabov side here to get the dub. I am going to pick Loik to win this one by decision. I think these guys are really well matched, and I don't really have much of a feel on who's going to win this fight, because the thing about Ogden, which makes him so hard to predict, is how smart he is. And because he's so smart and because he has so much faith in all of his MMA skill set and toolbox that you don't know what tools he's going to pull out in what fight in order to find ways to win minutes. So it's really hard to predict his fights. But just from the way that I've capped it so far, I see Loik being the guy pressuring more. I see him being the guy landing the bigger shots at distance. And I see him potentially maybe offensively wrestling more and being kind of like the stronger guy. But Ogden's looked really great and really strong in there lately too. So I'm not even sure about that. Lean into that Radzhabov side. I don't mind the overs here, but they are pretty juiced. So it's not something that I'm going to get to because I do feel like I can trust both of these guys' durability. Ogden's never been knocked out, and Radzhabov has been knocked out once, but I think he might have been compromised in that fight. Maybe Radzhabov can get submitted, and maybe this is the first time that Ogden's faced somebody that hits truly hard like Radzhabov does. Not a technical striker, but a guy that just throws crazy overhands and tries to fall in on your hips to take you down. But I'll go with Radzhabov by decision here, but not with a ton of confidence. Let's see here. We got Moyes saying Pudilova via spinning elbow KO, just like Molly, huh? That would be something else, man. E. Mendoza saying this is my favorite fight on this card. I've got Ogden. I think it's going to be a great fight. I agree. I have no idea really how it's going to play out, but I think that it's a very interesting stylistic matchup. They are so in right now. Spinning elbows are what all the kids are doing these days. It's what's hot. It's what's going on in the streets. If Ogden can't get the takedowns, I think Loik KOs him. He's going to try, that's for sure. I was kind of thinking the over here as a prop. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a good look, E, because the durability, whenever you have two durable guys, you can count on, even if there are moments found in fights that, they're going to be able to survive those moments and get through it. So I don't mind the over as well. Anakin Skywalker saying, I think Rombeski is still good, but I don't think he was ready for Carlos Ferreira yet. Oh, he certainly wasn't. Carlos absolutely smoked him, and Carlos was a gigantic underdog in that fight. So it leads me to believe that maybe Loik was not 100% or even close to it when he took that Rombeski fight. Pudilova training at that double axle spinning elbow in practice. There you go. Ogden by decision is the only play here. He's a great minute winner. Anakin, can Ogden lay and pray like he did versus Kurt? I don't think I don't think so. I think Radzhabov's too he shows too much urgency getting back up, and he's got good takedown defense of his own. We got Covert Bets in the room saying, what up, Weezy? Good to see you hanging out, Covert. Saying, oi, what's up, dude? Ogden, the hypnotizer, he can absolutely hypnotize people and get them to fight fights that they're not comfortable fighting. It'll be hard to lay and prey on Loik with the lower center of gravity. The dude's built like a fire hydrant. You sell this, Anakin, you will 1005 do better than Denver last week, plus with Weezy's help. Let's go. Yeah, man, Ogden is a hypnotist. 100%. Yes. Yo, T.O. Weezy says, my guy James, good to see you hanging out in here. Trey has never been finished as WEC. He's never been knocked out, but he has been submitted 3 times. Trey's never been knocked out, but he has been submitted 3 times. Loik decision could be it. Could be. We'll see. Ogden is tough to finish. He is. And if you're going to finish him, it's going to be more likely to be by submission than it is by KO. But the way Loik hits, I think he can knock out a lot of dudes in this division. He's got serious power. All right. So did I get that pick up there? I did. All right. So let's move on to the next fight, you guys. It is going to be Miranda Maverick, -220 favorite against Dione Barbosa, the Witch, at +185. Fight doesn't go to decision for this fight at +240. All right. Let me get these stats up on the screen for you guys. There we go. And let's first start talking about the trends in this fight. Miranda Maverick is still only 27 years old. She's 13-5 as a pro, and she's 6-3 in the UFC so far. She's won 4 of her last 5 fights, and she's currently on a 2-fight winning streak. Miranda's coming off a unanimous decision win over Andrea Lee in February. She was a minus 185 favorite in that spot. And before that, she had a third-round armbar finish over Priscilla Ketcha-Cheating as a minus 285 favorite in that fight. Now, Miranda's lone loss in her last 5 fights was against Jasmine Jasdavicius. That was a unanimous decision loss. And Maverick did not come through as a minus 250 favorite in that fight. Now, Miranda was originally scheduled to fight Tracy Cortez this week, but Tracy stepped in on short notice to fight Rose Namajunas. So in steps Dione Barbosa on about 2 weeks' notice for this fight. Dione's 32 years old. She's 7-2 as a professional, and she's 1-0 in the UFC so far. She's a judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt who is a former judo Olympian with the Brazilian national team. She's coming off a very close 29-28 unanimous decision win over Ernesta Caracacha. She was a minus 225 favorite in that fight, but she did not cover her price tag, even though she did cash the bet. Dione got her UFC contract on Dana White's Contender Series, winning by first-round armbar as a minus 300 favorite over Rain Guerrero. And Barbosa took that fight on short notice. She cut 16 pounds on 4 days' notice to get that opportunity, and she came up aces, finishing in the first round. Dione's fought a solid level of regional scene competition with names like Josiane Nunez, Karine Silva, and Jenner Bishop on her resume. So she's a solid flyweight prospect, and she's going to be a stiff test against the younger and more experienced Miranda Maverick. Miranda is currently a minus 220 favorite over Dione Barbosa, the plus 185 underdog. So Miranda Maverick is 5 years younger, so you got to love that. She's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup here. She's got the overall experience advantage, does Maverick, with 9 more pro fights and about 105 more minutes of cage time in 1.5 more years as a pro fighter. She's got a big UFC experience advantage as well, with 8 more fights and 100 more minutes of octagon time than Dione Barbosa does. The finishing ability, that goes to Miranda Maverick. She's got the better finish rate as a pro, 62% compared to 43% for Barbosa. And she's finished 3 of her 6 UFC wins has Miranda Maverick. So I would say that Miranda probably has more finishing equity in this fight. And I do think that Miranda's distance striking metrics so far in the UFC are very good. She probably does have the striking advantage in this fight. Her distance striking differential at positive 1.9 is very good. She's got above average 42% accuracy, above average 64% defense, and she's landing an impressive 6.1 distance strikes per minute while only absorbing 4.2. We haven't seen much of Dione's striking at the UFC level, but I do think it's safe to assume that Miranda wins the minutes at range in this fight. The moments could be even because Dione is very powerful and very strong. So if she lands clean, I think Barbosa's probably got just as much knockdown and knockout equity in this matchup as Miranda Maverick does. You know, Miranda Maverick 1-0 to the KO. Dione Barbosa is actually 0-1 to the KO. Now, she was knocked out by Josiane Nunez, who had went full rabies at the end of the second round of that fight and knocked out Barbosa. But, you know, if Josie's landing bombs on you, I don't care who you are, you're going down. So, yeah, I think Barbosa's got just as much power on the feet as Miranda Maverick. But the strength of schedule advantage, that goes to Miranda as well, as she's got 9 UFC fights compared to only 1 for Barbosa. So Miranda is the one who's fought the more experienced brand of UFC competition with the better win-loss records compared to Dione. Dione's fought a solid level of competition on the regional scene, but Miranda does have the strength of schedule advantage in this matchup. Now, Dione Barbosa is bigger than Miranda Maverick. She's going to be 3 inches taller. She's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. She's got the grappling advantage, in my opinion. Now, Dione's got black belts in both judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and she's a former judo Olympian for the Brazilian national team. So her ground game is excellent, and her ability to be able to get takedowns from the clinch will serve her well in this fight. Miranda does tend to accept bottom position and get stuck there when she's put there, and Dione has the judo to be able to get takedowns from the clinch. Once on the mat, Dione's very aggressive, hunting for submissions, so she has the possibility to win minutes and moments with her grappling game. But Miranda Maverick's a very tough opponent with a solid grappling game of her own. So I think maybe Barbosa kind of has an on paper, so to speak, grappling advantage here. But I think in the cage, it's really hard to know which one of these ladies is going to win the scrambles. You know, maybe Barbosa might win them early, but I think as the fight goes on, you're going to see Miranda Maverick, who's been tested at a higher level for longer and who trains at elevation and who was already training for a Tracy Cortez fight where there probably was going to be a decent amount of wrestling and scrambling. I think we can count on Miranda Maverick's conditioning a little bit more in this matchup, especially as the fight goes on. But this is an interesting women's flyweight fight between two solid, well-rounded prospects. But Dione Barbosa is taking this fight on somewhat short notice. I do think she is I think she's at a conditioning differential in this fight that definitely favors Miranda Maverick. I think Miranda Maverick's the better and busier striker on the feet. I think Miranda Maverick is just as likely to win grappling exchanges in this fight as Dione Barbosa is. While Barbosa probably wins the grappling exchanges in the first half of the fight, I think Miranda Maverick probably wins them in the second half of the fight. But I do think that Miranda's striking will be the difference here. And also, I also love having the younger fighter who's also more experienced. And you have that with Miranda Maverick. She's 5 years younger. She's got 9 more pro fights. She's got 8 more UFC fights. And I think she's just a little more well-tested and well-rounded at this point than Barbosa. I think Barbosa might actually be the more dangerous moment winner in this fight because she's just very powerful on the feet. She throws heavy kicks to the head, and her submission game, I think, is a little more sell out and go for it than Miranda Maverick. So it's an interesting fight, but I think it is going to probably see the scorecards. And I think if it does, I can maybe count on Maverick to win that second round and third round at a higher clip than I can count on Barbosa to do it. So I'm going to pick I'm going to pick Miranda Maverick to win this fight by decision. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got Covert saying, Weezy, how are you 50 years old? You look like a gangster. I am 50. I need a shave, dude. I haven't shaved since my girlfriend got bit. And I just went to go shave, and my clippers are that I used to kind of like trim my beard. They just broke. So like I got a lot of hair, but like there's a lot of gray, dude. Like I think I kind of look 50, but appreciate you, man, for saying that I look younger than 50. I'll take that compliment every single day. We got Aussie Fight Fan saying, "What up, Weezy? Let's get it." Good to see you hanging out in here, Aussie Fight Fan. Appreciate you, man. Playing Maverick round 3 KO at plus 4,000. I have no problem with that. Moyes, that bet gets your Uncle Weezy's bam stamp of approval, plus 4,000 whenever you've got a conditioning differential like you do in this Maverick fight, and you add in short notice on the Barbosa side, the one that has shown poorer conditioning. Those late set 2-3 props on fighters can be very, very interesting. I like that look. That's a great bet. Dione is live, I think, but I haven't bet her yet. Maverick is basic on the feet and a turtle on her back. And yeah, I mean, if Dione can get takedowns and get to dominant positions in rounds 1 or 2, she probably wins this fight. Yeah, and Aussie Fight Fan, like I said, plus 4,000 too. Yeah, short notice exhaustion playing round 3. I love it, dude. I bet, because I knew that Brady Heastan, the way that he pushes a wrestling heavy pace and the way that Garrett Armfield slows down late in fights when he has to wrestle, that's why I hit Brady Heastan for a quarter unit at plus 2,400 for the round 3 prop. That was a 6-unit win. So, and I also had money on his money line. So it was like a 7-unit win thanks to Brady Heastan because of that same play. If you got a conditioning differential and you push a pace, you can get that third round finish. And ring a ding ding, you guys. We got the 4-ounce sniper in the room with the $2 donation saying prayers to Weezy. Appreciate you, 4-ounce sniper. Thank you so much for the donation. The third of the show today. Appreciate all you guys for supporting the cause today. And we got Serge in the room saying, I think Barbosa is super alive. Yeah, look, if Barbosa can get this fight into the clinch in every round, those judo players are extremely difficult to deal with in the clinch. They're so good there. They have such good balance. And so much of judo is just being able to mess with your opponent's feet while you move them around on the cage. And that's what judo players do. They hit foot sweeps. And most of what you do in judo isn't just like you practice, each individual throw. But, what good judo players do is they use one throw to set up another and then set up another. They know how their opponents are going to react when they're faced with a particular attack. And they'll fake like they're going for that attack, knowing that their opponent's going to react defensively in a certain way that will allow them an opening to hit another offensive attack. And that's what judo players do well. And if you're an Olympian, a black belt in judo, that's where I think Dione can win the minutes of this fight. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the clinch exchanges go here. James saying being single helps out a lot. I have never been married, and I think that probably does help out a lot, James. True. Remdog saying Maverick's only UFC losses are to Blanchfield, Barber, and Jazavicius. Not much in common Barbosa has with them. I mean, like Jazavicius and Blanchfield and Barber are all very good fighters. So, Dione Barbosa's got a lot to prove before her name gets put into that level of UFC fighter. So agreed there. What's up, brother? Virna by sub says the bookie man. Virna is always live for a submission. Absolutely. We got Blom Dog saying Cody Gibson, good chance to get a long-awaited UFC win. 10 years. That would be really cool. And it's been a long time since Duho Choi got a win too. So that'll be interesting. And yeah, this is the next fight, you guys. It is going to be Brian Boom Kelleher going up against Cody Gibson. Kelleher is a plus 160 underdog. Cody Gibson, the minus 185 favorite. Fight doesn't go to decision. Is juiced here almost to about 60% implied probability at minus 145 here. So this is one of the fights that I haven't really looked into nearly as much. This is a show that's about gambling, and we've got a 38, a guy that's pushing 38 years old as a bantamweight here in Brian Kelleher, to a guy who's pushing 37 years old as a bantamweight here in Cody Gibson. Cody Gibson is almost a 2/3 implied probability favorite here to win this fight, sitting at about 65%. And this is not a guy, that you lay. He hasn't even won 65% of his fights. He's got a 19-10 career record. Brian Kelleher's got a journeyman record of 24-15. But, Cody Gibson's 1-5 in the UFC, 1-5. Do you want to lay minus 185 on a fighter like that? That's pushing 37 years of age, that lost to Miles Johns, that lost to Brad Katoner. He's had some good regional scene fights. Francisco Rivera, Ray Borg, John Dodson. He won 2 of those 3 fights. And I think that Gibson, the reason that he's the favorite in this fight is that when you get 2 guys that are obviously nearing the end of their very long and illustrious careers, oftentimes these bets come down to not so much what these guys have done in the past, more so to how do we feel about where they are right now in their career. And that's always a little bit harder thing to cap. Are they trying? Are they training hard? Do they still feel like they can put a winning streak together? Or are they showing up for a check because they're professional fighters? And in order to get paid as a professional fighter, you got to get in that cage and fight. Brian Kelleher is on a little bit more than a 6-month layoff. But prior to that, I think we had a very long layoff due to injury. But I don't have it in front of the screen here. Actually, we can just look at my stats package here. And Brian Kelleher, yeah, he hadn't fought for 1.5 years between the Bautista and the Garbrandt fight. So, since mid-2022, so like really over the last 2 years, he's only fought once, and it was against Cody Garbrandt, and he was knocked out in the first round. And his 2 fights before that, he fought, really high-level bantamweights here in Mario Batista and Umar Nurmagomedov. And both of those guys finished him in the first round as well. This neck injury that Brian has had to come back from was extremely serious, and he's already almost a 38-year-old bantamweight. He's already on his 40th professional fight when he gets into the cage for this one, his 17th UFC fight. This guy's been through it. There's a lot of tread off of those tires. He's definitely nearing the end of his career. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. All 3 of those losses come in the very first round by finish. And he had the kind of serious injury that he had to take a year and a half off of fighting and was told by his doctors that he really shouldn't be fighting anymore. So this comes down to narrative. Now, what if Brian Kelleher is motivated? What if he has been training his ass off? What if his neck has gotten better? Then he probably looks a lot better than plus 160. But those are a lot of what ifs. And when was the last time you saw Cody Gibson look minus 185 against anybody? Maybe outside of the Ultimate Fighter house when he was fighting some prospect in the house that was being coached by a cokehead. Look, this is the 1-800-GAMBLER fight of the week for me. I am going to stay away from it. I'm going to pick Cody Gibson to win by decision. I don't think either one of these guys is finishing a UFC level opponent at this point in their career, yet fight doesn't go to decision, is juiced to minus 145 here. I kind of feel like fight goes at plus money might be a decent play this week if I was going to gamble on this fight, but I am not going to gamble on this fight. So I am just going to stay out of it. I'm going to pick Cody Gibson to win this fight by decision because I think he does more and he's more likely to maybe win some minutes in the grappling exchanges here if he can just stay out of the guillotine of Kelleher. And because Kelleher is known for that guillotine, I think that, Cody can maybe get some takedowns, win some minutes on top, do more at range, and get a decision win here. What do you guys think in the chat? Yeah, 10 years since the last win. We'll see if we can pull it off. Are we getting 2 straight weeks of Skullet wins? Probably not, Ben, but I just hope that Brian makes us ineligible to do that because we should really only have to look at a Skullet, however many times a year Charles Johnson fights. Outside of that, nobody should have that haircut. It's just such a bad choice. Okay? Look, you might be going bald, and I sympathize with it. My dad was bald. My dad is bald. He still is bald, to this day, right? And I've still got all this hair. I still got this big, thing. I got a big, beautiful head of hair over here. But look, there's nothing wrong with being bald. What there is wrong with is when you try to make innovative hair decisions when your head is already telling you your ability to innovate is being severely limited by the fact that you're going bald. So stop it with the skullets. Charles Johnson is going to keep the skullet because he's got Skullet Gang merchandise that he has to sell. If he shaves that thing from the back of his head, his garage is going to be full of Skullet Gang merchandise that doesn't get sold, and his wife's going to be bitching at him. His kid is going to want to have a place to play, but he's not going to be able to play there because there's going to be all these boxes full of Skullet Gang merchandise that nobody wants. But so Charles is going to, he's pot committed, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to continue with the Skullet, and he's on a 3-fight win streak. It's working for him. Let Charles Johnson wear his Skullet. Let him continue to do what he's doing. It's working. Everybody else, don't do it. Stop. It's an irresponsible decision. And let Charles have his thing and stop trying to copy Charles and everybody else get responsible haircuts. It's not too much to ask. Thank you. I'm sorry I had to go off on a little bit of a tangent there, but that all needed to be said. Let's roll. 1313 in the room. My guy saying, "Oi, what's up, Uncle Weezy? Missed you last week. Sorry to hear what happened to your girlfriend. I hope she's doing better now. Sending my prayers. Let's get an ass shaving of the week started again. Streak started again. Let's get it. Let's go. We've got Nigel in the room saying, what's up, Uncle Weezy in Hoke, brother? Great to catch a live show. Good to see one of my fraternity brothers in the room here, Mr. Nigel Lee. Appreciate you. We got James S. is in here laughing. We got Blonde Dog saying, I think that may happen with the merch either way. We'll see, man. But, dude, that merch is going to sell a lot more if Charles keeps going out there and performing the way that he's performing these last 3 fights. Man, he's really turned it around, dude. 3 good wins in a row against Azat Maksum, Jake Hadley, and then this impressive 3rd round knockout over Josh Van. Yeah, so I mean, like, you know, say what you will about the haircut, the dude is a baller fighter right now, and that's what's most important. We got Nigel Lee saying, if you know you truly have no friends, if you are rocking the skull, friends don't let friends rock that hairstyle ever, and I repeat, ever, says my guy Nigel. We got Tyrone saying, get off my big nuts. That would be my pleasure. I was never on them to begin with, Tyrone. So yeah, I will stay off of them, and I promise you that, brother. We got James in the room saying I get a fade every Friday. There you go, man. It's I don't need one, man. I just tie it all back, man. It's so much easier. Every time I cut my hair, it just winds up growing back anyway. We got what's up, Weezy, says my guy Big Show Picks, Pub Sports Radio's very own, and he's saying, get off my boy Charles nuts. Yeah, we don't get off good shit, Weezy. We don't need another dick rider in here, man. Yeah, do the Joe Dirt mullet, man. That would be a pretty good one. I could actually kind of do that if I just shaved this. I could have a total Joe Dirt mullet because I got super long hair, but you know, I wouldn't choose to make that decision. That was a fictional character, you know, that had that haircut. No, people don't really actually wear that hairstyle. But let's move on to this next fight. We still got a lot of work to do, you guys. Here, we still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more fights to go. Jeong-Yeong Lee against Hyder Amil. This is my favorite fight on the card. I think that these guys are extremely fun to watch, both of them. And I can't wait to see this fight. Let's talk about the trends in this matchup. First of all, this fight fucks bigly. 2 top-notch prospects squaring off in what should be an absolute barn burner for as long as it lasts. Jeong-Yeong Lee is 28 years old. He's 11-1 as a pro, and he's 2-0 so far in the UFC. He won the Road to UFC featherweight tournament in February of 2023. He edged out a split decision over Chinese prospect Yi Jia, and he was a minus 250 favorite in that fight. Lee absolutely rolled through the early stages of the tournament, finishing Bin Ji by armbar in only 36 seconds, and he was an underdog in that fight, plus 100. And then he knocked out Kai Lu with a right hook 42 seconds into the first round of their fight as a minus 300 favorite. Just before the tournament, Lee got a 10-second knockout victory with a straight right hand over Hae-Jin Park. That KO was nasty, and Park didn't wake up for well over a minute from that one. That was a really, really nasty one. This kid is explosive, and he's got scary power. Lee is coming off a very impressive 30-27 unanimous decision win over Blake Builder as a minus 165 favorite, and he's going to be fighting Hyder Amil, who's 34 years old. He's undefeated at 9-0 as a pro, and he's 1-0 in the UFC so far. Amil made his UFC debut back in February against Fernie Garcia, who took the fight on less than a week's notice up a weight class. Amil shaved his ass. He finished him in the second round via knockout, outlanding him 79-26 in significant strikes as a minus 220 favorite. Hyder got his UFC contract on Dana White's Contender Series. He won a 29-28 unanimous decision in an exhausting scramble-heavy fight over Emra Sanmez, and he was a minus 175 favorite in that fight. Hyder walks forward like a zombie. He throws bombs, and he doesn't give you a chance to breathe. He has power, he has a solid chin, and he has the willingness to go to dark places by pushing an untenable pace, hoping his opponent gets tired before he does. This fight should be an absolute scrap, and I can't wait to watch it. Lee's currently that favorite over, it was, what is it, minus 210 favorite right now over Amil, who's a plus 180 underdog. The money has been coming slowly in on the Amil side as he was only about minus 185 when I wrote this fight up a couple days ago. So Jeong-Yeong Lee has got all the measurables advantages here. He's 5.5 years younger. He's 1 inch taller, and he's got a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's got the experience advantages. So he's younger and more experienced. We love that. Pro experience, 3 more fights, almost 4 more years as a professional fighter, because I think Lee has already done his military service, because I believe he's had a 3-month or 3-year layoff at some point in his career. I think it was after the Haejin Park fight. And he's got a UFC experience advantage, does Jeong-Yeong Lee, with 1 more fight and 23 more minutes of octagon time. I believe that Jeong-Yeong Lee has more power. It's pretty clear on tape that Lee is the more explosive athlete with the heavier hands. Both these guys hit hard, but I would rate Lee's one-punch KO power as being superior to Amil's, who tends to be a bit more of a volume-based finisher. Lee has 5 first-round finishes as a pro, 4 of those coming inside of a minute. And the submission grappling advantage, in my opinion, as well, goes to Jeong-Yeong Lee. He's a BJJ black belt. He's 3-0 to the submission as a pro, and he's shown excellent anti-grappling and takedown defense thus far in the UFC. Supposedly, Jeong-Yeong Lee had at least 1, but I think maybe even 2 torn ACLs in that Yi Jia fight. So for him to be able to keep it as close as he did was really impressive. And the way that this guy can finish fights is also very impressive. So I do think that this kid is a phenomenal prospect, especially at only 28 years of age. Now, Hyder Amil, he's a switch stance fighter versus an orthodox here, so that's an on-paper advantage. And what I love about Hyder is the pressure, the pace, and the volume. He isn't the most gifted athlete or technical fighter, Hyder Amil. He's kind of small for the division. He got a late start to MMA, and he still only has 9 pro fights. That being said, the style that Hyder brings is a nightmare to deal with. He walks forward like Jason Voorhees with a machete. He's got a solid chin that can absorb your best shots, and he drowns his opponents in volume and pace. He has heavy hands. He can land big shots when you are backed up to the cage, and his anti-grappling and takedown defense held up great against Emra Sanmez on Dana White's Contender Series, and he survived some bad spots against Chase Gibson and Hobson Jr. on the mat. So I'd say he's a capable grappler who can stay safe if his opponent wants to take him down. But what he really does best is just wear you down as the fight goes on, especially if you land big shots and he doesn't go away. He's one of those guys that can just break you in half when you realize he's never going to fuck off over the entire 15 minutes. I mean, you see a guy like Jeong-Yeong Lee who's averaging 8 significant strike attempts per minute at distance, while Hyder Amil in his fight against Garcia was attempting 27.7. So these guys have a completely different output schedule, but I do think that Amil, because he walks forward and he's so reckless about doing it in that way, that, you know, Jeong-Yeong Lee can crack him. But this fight's going to be so much fun to watch. The pace, the pressure, the durability, and the volume of Hyder Amil versus the power striking and crafty submission grappling of Lee. Lee's got a lot of advantages on paper. 5.5 years younger, taller, longer, more experienced overall and in the UFC. He's more powerful on the feet, and he's the higher level and more dangerous grappler, in my opinion. But Amil is a nightmare opponent to deal with stylistically. He forces wars. He pressures nonstop. He's durable, powerful, and his pace is a nightmare to deal with because he gives you no chance to breathe. Amil's always going to be the kind of guy who could craft an impressive third-round comeback win if his opponents don't come into the fight ready to go a very hard 15 minutes. We've seen Lee slow down late in fights, especially against Yi Jia, but he fights through being tired, and he carries that power with him late. I have to lean to the Lee side here. He's a phenomenal prospect who's still young and rounding out his game. The essentials are there, though. He's confident. He's well-rounded and powerful. He's faced a solid level of competition, and he's showing progress from fight to fight. This is going to be an excellent test for him, though, because Amil, who's undefeated himself, has that Gilbert Melendez scrap pack style of bringing a bloody war with him and categorically refusing to fuck off. I like the under 2.5 rounds here around -115, -120 because of the style of the fight that Amil brings. But the fact that neither guy has ever been finished as a pro is kind of scaring me off of betting it. Amil is very hittable because he always walks forward into the pocket and he rarely feints or moves his head. I think Lee clips him early and finishes the fight, but I also wouldn't be the least bit surprised if this fight did get extended and Amil broke Lee in the third round. I love this fight. I can't wait to watch it and see which one of these guys takes the next step, but I am going to pick Jeong-Yeong Lee to win this fight and win it by first round knockout. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Joe Dirt for Halloween, Weezy. Yeah, that would be a pretty good costume. I mean, I would have to shave this though, and then it would take me like over a year to grow it all back, but it would be a pretty funny one. JP saying Hyder's nickname meets approval. Very appropriate. He is the Hurricane. Yes, for sure. Agree, man. Taking a shot on Hyder and got under 2.5 at -120. Yeah, I mean, stylistically, I love that under 2.5. These guys are going to push a crazy pace. I even love fight doesn't go to decision even more. It'll probably be in my greasy 4-leg parlay this week simply because, I mean, I think that's the kind of bet that even if it doesn't cash, there's no way that you're going to say after 3 rounds of a Amil Lee fight that, oh, Christ, that was boring, or, man, nobody really landed anything big or was close on any submissions. I think these guys are going to go full rabies. They're going to be like 2 rats in a shoe, just absolutely scrapping, and I can't wait for this fight. Excuse me, guys. I like Lee's body work in the builder fight. I think it'll work well for him in this fight too. Yeah, man, slowing this dude down would be a great idea. But let's move on to this next fight, you guys. 52 of you live hanging out with us here on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel, and please consider joining the Patreon if you want to get access to these phenomenal stats and betting models for prop bets and over-under bets, subscriber-only content, DraftKings, FanDuel, prize picks, underdog, fantasy stats, all of it included for $25 a month. Support the work. Help your Uncle Weezy out. It would be much, much appreciated. But let's move on to this next fight. It's going to be another absolute ding-dong Donnybrook of a fight here, as we have got Do-Ho Choi, the Korean Superboy, at +140, going up against Senor Perfecto, Bill Algeo, who is a -160 favorite. Fight doesn't go to decision for this fight at plus money here at +135. Definitely the bookies think that this thing goes to decision about 60% of the time. So let's start talking about the trends for this fight. Do-Ho Choi, the Korean Superboy, 33 years old, 14-4-1 as a pro, and he's 3-3-1 in the UFC so far. He's been extremely inactive lately, as he's fought only 3 times in the last 7.5 years. Choi is coming off a draw versus Kyle Nelson in February last year as a -185 favorite. He was winning that fight, but had a point deducted in the third round because of a headbutt, which wound up costing him the win. Prior to the Nelson fight, Choi was on a 3+ year layoff, I assume due to mandatory military service. Before that layoff, Choi was on a 3-fight losing streak. He was knocked out in the second round by Charles Jourdain as a -400 favorite. He was knocked out in the second round by Jeremy Stevens as a -180 favorite, and he lost a unanimous decision against Cub Swanson in one of the best UFC fights of all time, and he was a -235 favorite in that fight. People who have laid juice on Choi after the year 2016 have been very disappointed with the results. Choi is fighting Bill Algeo, who's 35 years old. He's 18-8 as a pro, and he's 5-4 in the UFC. Algeo is coming off a first-round knockout loss against Kyle Nelson back in February as a -245 favorite. Before the Nelson fight, Algeo was on a 2-fight winning streak. He had a unanimous decision win over Alex Hernandez as a +100 underdog, and a second-round submission win over TJ Brown as a -200 favorite. Bill is tall, he's long, he's well-rounded, and he's well-tested. He's durable and defensively sound. Very interesting stylistic matchup here in the featherweight division that has Bill Algeo as a minus 165 favorite over Doo-Ho Choi, the plus 145 underdog. Choi's advantages, he's 2 years younger than Bill Algeo, and he's the better finisher. Choi's got a 100% finish rate in his 3 UFC wins, and he's got an 86% finish rate as a pro compared to Bill Algeo's 40% UFC finish rate and 61% finish rate as a pro. Choi throws punches with hate in his heart, and his commitment to violence makes him the more consistent finisher. And he's got the power advantage here as he throws with a massive right hand. Whether it's his uppercut or overhand, he throws with massive power. Choi has landed 4 knockdowns in 7 UFC fights and is landing a knockdown on 1.6% of the significant strikes that he's landed. Now, Bill Algeo is much bigger than Doo-Ho Choi. He's going to be 2 inches taller. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's a switch stance fighter fighting an orthodox fighter in Doo-Ho Choi, so that's an on-paper advantage. And Bill Algeo is the better minute winner. He throws a ton of volume. He's got great footwork and stance switching at range, and he's a very efficient grappler. He does an excellent job of managing range, being more active than his opponent while avoiding the big shots. I think Choi is more reliant on moment winning, while Bill Algeo is the more capable minute winner here. And I see this as being a minute winner in Algeo facing a moment winner in Choi. That's how I'm capping this fight. Algeo's a minus, what is it? 160 favorite here to Choi, plus 140. Bill Algeo, Algeo's a minus 160 favorite on the money line, but he's only a pick'em on the finish only prop. So obviously the books also feel as if Choi should be landing the bigger shots and winning the moments of this fight. Choi's 2 years younger than Bill. He's got the power and finishing ability advantages, but he's been extremely inactive, fighting only 3 times in the last 7 years. Now, Bill Algeo is taller. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. He's a switch stance fighter, and he has the pro and UFC experience advantages. Bill moves really well in the cage. He never backs straight up. He's always circling or exiting on angles, and he uses his length well by managing distance at range with his kicks and stance switches. The biggest concerns I have here are the 53% distance striking defense of Algeo, combined with the fact that this is in the small cage, and there's going to be less room for Algeo to move around and maintain distance. Against a guy who cracks as hard as Choi does, that could be a serious problem, especially coming off a first-round knockout loss to Kyle Nelson that Bill Algeo is coming off of. So Choi is going to pressure forward and try to land that big right hand, and I think he's going to do exactly that at some point in this fight because I don't know if Algeo is going to make Choi respect his power. Choi showed some power in his last outing against Kyle Nelson, proving he's still very dangerous against solid UFC competition. I'm going to lean towards the bigger hitter in Choi due to the distance striking defensive problems Algeo has had and pick Doo-Ho Choi to win this fight by knockout. So the pick is going to be the Korean Superboy to get his first win in something like 7 years over Senior Perfecto Algeo. And I think he's going to do it by knockout in round number 2. What do you guys think? You guys think I've completely lost my goddamn mind? What's happening here? We got Olajuwon Dream in the room saying, let's get greasy. What's up, dude? We got D Spearman saying, Uncle Weezy, what's up, D? And by the way, ring a ding ding, you guys. We got Low T City Ortega in the room with the $3 donation. Speaking of TJ Brown, remember that haircut? The mohawk that's dyed blonde with frosted tips. Yeah, I remember it. Boy, TJ's had some bad haircuts, man. But maybe TJ is the next one to rock the skullet. That I could see him making that decision. Bad decisions in the cage, sometimes bad decisions in the barber chair. So yeah, TJ Brown has made several of those, not just in the cage, but in the barber chair. So I do remember that haircut, Low T City Ortega. It's very, very difficult to forget. There we go. We got Chris Reed in the room, and he just got to grab his coffee and his croissant real quick, and then he'll be ready to break down these fights with us. Let's go. Professor Chaos in the room saying Choi was utilizing nasty calf kicks in his last fight, which will be money versus Algeo. I think that'll be very good. Algeo will be switching stances quite a bit. So maybe, we'll see if Choi's willing to throw those calf kicks when Algeo goes southpaw. But either way, he's got great low leg kicks and that right hand, man, and the pressure. I just think that Algeo would be a lot more likely to cover that price tag if this was in the big cage and he had a lot more room to move. Oh, my guy Kiwi Brew in the room saying, sure, all good to see you hanging out in here, brother. I hope all is well with you. We got Rem Dog saying Kiwi Wees. Yeah, getting stopped by Kyle Nelson is unforgivable. Might have been a little bit of an early stoppage. Algeo is a very durable guy. He probably should have gotten the benefit of the doubt there, but he was getting cracked. And Nelson really hurt him bad. And when you watch the Choi versus Nelson fight, it was Choi who was landing the bigger shots in that fight. Like I said, that's a 30-27 on one card and 29-28 on two cards, unanimous decision win for Choi if he doesn't do that dumbass headbutt in the third round. But it winds up looking like a draw, and people forget that Doo-Ho Choi won that fight. If it weren't for the foul, I'm not saying that Dione shouldn't have taken a point. He absolutely headbutted Kyle Nelson, so he got a point taken. Blom Dog saying I have to watch back the Nelson fight, but I would want a bigger plus money on Doo-Ho to bet, I think. Bill will be there all three rounds in his face. Well, I think they're going to be in each other's face, and I do like that power differential on the Choi side, but it's a very good fight, and Choi's an underdog for a reason. My guy Matt, the Golden Octagon, the guy who made that awesome intro for me, saying, "Oi, like the video. Good luck to everybody this weekend." Yeah, we need a bounce back week this week. I think last week was rough for a lot of cappers, me included, but I didn't do any content, so thank God you guys didn't listen to any of my bad advice last week because there was none to listen to. Let's move on to this next fight, though. It's going to be Cody Durden going up against Bruno Bulldog Silva. This is a fun fight. We've got Cody Durden, a slight -120 favorite over Bruno Silva, the +100 underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision at +155 for this fight. Let me get the stats up here for you guys. I'll get a little drink of water and we'll talk some trends on this fight. All right. Cody Durden, 33 years old, 16-5-1 as a pro, and he's 5 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw in the UFC so far. Cody's won 4 of his last 5 fights, but he's coming off a loss to Tagir Ulanbekov back in December via second-round rear naked choke. He was a small +145 underdog in that fight. But prior to the Ulanbekov fight, Cody was on a 4-fight winning streak. He put together back-to-back-to-back unanimous decision wins against Jake Hadley. He was a +165 underdog in that fight. Charles Johnson as a +115 underdog in that fight. And Carlos Mota, and he was an underdog to Carlos Mota as well, +140. So Cody Durden cashed 3 consecutive times as an underdog. And then I think the fight before that, I think he cashed as a favorite over Flick. But Cody won 8 of the 9 rounds of those fights, according to the judges' scorecards. And the wins over Hadley and Charles Johnson are aging like fine wine at the moment. Cody's been training at American Top Team in the South Florida Sun, so they should have him ready to go for his fight with Bruno Bulldog Silva, who's also been training at American Top Team for this fight. So 2 campmates fighting each other is always interesting. Bruno Silva's 34 years old. He's 13 wins, 5 losses, 2 draws, and 1 no contest as a professional. And he's 3-2 with 1 no contest in the UFC. Bruno is currently on a 3-fight winning streak. All of them finishes. His last fight was a year and 3 months ago against Tyson Nam. Bruno dropped him with a front kick to the face and eventually found Tyson's back in a scramble and finished with the rear naked choke. He was a -205 favorite in that fight. Before that, Bruno took almost 2 years off between fights after shaving the ass of poor Victor Martinez by first-round knockout. He was a -400 favorite in that fight. and it only took 1 minute for Bruno to drop Victor and finish with ground and pound. Before that, he only had 2 months off between fights when he shaved the ass of poor JP Bays, and he was a plus 115 underdog to JP Bays in that fight. Silva beat 7 shades of shit out of Bays, outlanding him 37-17 in significant strikes and landing 3 knockdowns and finishing via KO in the second round. Bruno's been pretty inactive lately, having fought only 3 times in the last 3.5 years, while Cody's fought 7 times over that same time frame. Cody is a slight minus 115 favorite over Bruno Silva, who's the minus 105 underdog here. So Cody Durden has all the measurables advantages. He's 1 year younger. He's 3 inches taller. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. He's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. He's got more UFC level experience here with 3 more fights and a half hour more of octagon time. And I believe that Cody Durden's the better minute winner. Cody pushes a pace wherever the fight goes, and that allows him to do enough on the judges' scorecards to win minutes, bank rounds, and win decisions. Cody is 4-0-1 to the decision in the UFC, while Bruno Silva's 0 wins and 2 losses to the decision in the UFC. On the feet, Cody's high volume. He attempts 13 distance strikes per minute. He lands 6.2 of them, and that's with 48% accuracy, which is significantly above average for the division. All 3 of those metrics much, much higher than the divisional average. So Cody's also a high volume wrestler, as he's attempting 9.7 takedowns per 15 minutes. That's 4.9 more attempts than the divisional average. He's getting 4.8 takedowns per 15 minutes. That's 1.9 more than the divisional average, and he gets his takedowns at a 50% clip, over 11% better than the divisional average. Once Cody gets his takedowns, he does a fantastic job of working to his opponent's back. He locks in the body triangle, and he stays there. Cody outcontrols his opponents 48.6% to 12.2%, winning 80% of the control time positions in his fights, which is huge because Cody spends over 60% of his UFC octagon time in control time positions. Cody's ability to use his striking to set up the entries on his takedowns, then blending his wrestling and his Brazilian jiu-jitsu to get to his opponent's backs really allows him to have the right type of skill set to consistently win minutes at this level, because he can grind out the clock when he gets to your back, but when he's not on your back, he's throwing strikes at a much higher level than the divisional average. He's landing at a higher level than the divisional average, and he's attempting and getting takedowns at a much higher level than the divisional average. So wherever the fight goes, Cody is outworking his opponents, and he has the conditioning to push that pace for the full 15 minutes. Now, Bruno Silva has got a ton of finishing ability. He's finished all 3 of his UFC wins inside the distance. He's got 1 submission, and he's got 2 knockouts, while Cody has only finished 1 of his 5 UFC wins, and that was a guy who Bruno Silva also finished. Poor JP Bays. The durability advantage, in my opinion, goes to Silva. Cody's been finished in all 3 of his UFC losses, all 3 by submission. It's not like Cody has no chin or can't take a punch, but he is susceptible to the submission, while Bruno Silva has never been finished in either of his UFC losses. Khalid Taha did finish him up a weight class, but he popped for steroids, and that was overturned to a no contest. So I believe that Bruno Silva is going to have the power advantage in this fight. Bruno hits hard. His UFC knockdown ratio is 5-1. He's landing a knockdown on 2.8% of the significant strikes that he's landed in the UFC, which is extremely high for a flyweight, and he throws his punches and kicks with hate in his heart. Bruno is very dangerous at distance striking range, and Cody has 53% distance striking defense, and he's been dropped twice in 9 UFC fights. The submission grappling advantage, in my opinion, goes to Bruno Silva. He's a high-level BJJ black belt. He's 4-1 to the submission as a pro, while Cody Durden is 0-3 to the submission at the UFC level. So if Bruno can get to a dominant position via a takedown and advances to a dominant position, by landing a knockdown too. He could do that. The ability for Bruno to potentially hunt for submissions that can finish the fight could potentially be there. This is a high-level flyweight fight between two well-tested and well-rounded fighters. The Durden side has all the measurables advantages. 1 year younger, 3 inches taller, 2-inch reach advantage. Southpaw in the Southpaw versus Orthodox matchup. Cody has the UFC experience and the strength of schedule advantages, and his combination of skills are conducive to winning minutes, banking rounds, and winning decisions due to how busy he stays offensively wherever the fight goes. Cody should be the better minute winner, while Bruno is a brilliant moment winner. Bruno has crazy power on that feet with that 5-to-1 knockdown ratio. He's durable. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with an opportunistic submission game, and Cody's been submitted in all 3 of his UFC losses. And Jake Hadley was dangerously close to finishing an armbar 2 fights ago against Cody, which could have been his 4th submission loss. The minutes of Durden versus the moments of Silva. We need to keep in mind this is in the small cage, and that Bruno Silva has been extremely inactive lately, while Cody has been very active. I think this line is right where it needs to be. It should be noted that Silva's a slight underdog on the money line, but his finish-only prop on BetOnline is currently minus 210, or around 68% implied. So the books agree that Bruno should be the guy winning the moments of this fight, and they credit him with over 2/3 of the finishing equity of this fight. So I took a 1-unit shot on the under 2.5 rounds here at plus 200, not only because the line was clearly underpriced according to the available benchmarks and past performance of the two fighters, but because I do think Silva has a lot of finish upside, and Cody and Bruno's calf kicks and back takes could get either guy some finish upside as well. In this damage versus control judging environment we're in, and because this is in the small cage, I'm going to lean to the Silva side for a pick, but I'm not confident on who wins this fight, only that the line is fair and that these guys are really well matched. I'd love to find a Bruno Silva finish only prop that's closer to even money on one of the other books, but if I can't find that, I'll probably just stick with my under 2.5 rounds bet here and stay away from betting the money line. But I am going to pick Bruno Silva in this matchup and pick him to win by 2nd round club and sub. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got James saying, here we go. I like this fight. This is a really good fight. We got E. Mendoza saying this is a sneaky good fight, in my opinion. I kind of like Silva to take it. Not sure on a prop. Yeah, I took that under 2.5 at plus 200 because it was a fat number. It was a trifecta bet on my over-under betting model. It means it's underpriced according to all 3 metric comparisons that we do. And stylistically, especially on the Silva side, I think there's some finishing equity. JP Taylor, I was going to consider the fight doesn't go to decision, but you reminded me they're teammates. So no, yeah, they are. Yeah, and they both fight. They're both at American Top Team right now. Durden used to be at American Top Team Atlanta, but he's moved down to South Florida and so is training down there most of the time now, if I'm not mistaken. And Bruno Silva, a former fight ready guy who apparently has went over to Florida as well to train at American Top Team. We got Josh Fan Guy in the room saying, late to the party. Enjoy your stuff, Weezy. First time stopping by, so my comments might be a little late. Petersen is built like a potato. Yeah, he is not. He's not, they're not going to make an action figure so that kids want to build their body like him. But, he's got that Minnesota kind of look, but he's a very, very good wrestler. We got Blonde Dog saying, I feel like this should be favored to finish. Sketchy line, maybe there's weight to the teammate angle. Yeah, and if they are teammates, that is something that usually winds up going a little bit more like a sparring match, but who knows? We will see. I took advantage of an underpriced number there. Hopefully, it looks like a good bet after the fight is over. We'll see, man. Yeah, he is Minnesota felt for sure, JP Taylor. That is for sure. All right, you guys, let's move on to this next fight. An absolute barn burner. Kurt Holobaugh, the underdog, plus 114. Kaynan Krushewsky, the favorite at minus 134. Fight doesn't go to decision here, sitting at minus 180 on BetOnline Sportsbook. So, let's get to the stats for this one. They are right there. And let's talk some trends for this fight. So let me get a drink of water here. Whoa. Coaster stuck to the bottom of the cup, and then I freaked out a little bit. I'm all right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm all right. I'm going to have to remind myself to watch that back, see if it was funny at all. Kurt Holobaugh is a 37-year-old fighter who's 20 wins and 8 losses as a pro, and he's 1 win and 5 losses at the UFC level. He's a well-rounded and well-tested veteran of the sport, solid boxing. He pressures constantly, and his BJJ game is extremely dangerous and aggressive. He went 1-4 in his original UFC stint. He was cut from the organization in 2019, but he got a couple of wins on the regional scene before being invited to the Ultimate Fighter Season 31, the Veterans versus Rookies. And he put together back-to-back wins over Lee Hammond and Jason Knight to punch his ticket to the final. He won the final by second-round triangle choke submission over Austin Hubbard as a plus 150 underdog. Kurt's coming off a 30-27 unanimous decision loss to Trey Ogden as a plus 125 underdog back in March, where Kurt was taken down 3 times and controlled on the mat for over 11 minutes. Kurt's going to be facing off against Kaynan Krushewsky, who's making his second appearance in the UFC. Kaynan's UFC debut happened back in November at a 165-pound catchweight, as Kaynan took the fight on less than 1 week's notice versus Elvis Brenner. Kaynan was knocked out in the first round with a vicious left hand. He was a plus 175 underdog in that fight. Then Kaynan got his UFC contract, getting a first-round rear naked choke win over Dylan Mantello on Dana White's Contender Series. He was a minus 250 favorite in that fight, and before that, Kaynan was the Jungle Fight lightweight champion. Kaynan has power in both hands. He's a BJJ black belt, and he's been well tested on the regional scene, fighting for 5 rounds on several occasions against high-level regional scene opponents. This one promises to be a bit of a ding-dong due to Holobaugh's pressure-heavy style and Kaynan's power and slick BJJ game. Krushewsky is currently a minus 140 favorite over Holobaugh, who's around a plus 120 underdog at the time of writing. A little bit of money has come in on Holobaugh since I wrote that. So Kurt's got the pro and UFC experience advantages here. He's got 11 more fights as a pro and 105 more minutes of cage time and 2.5 more years as a pro fighter. And at the UFC level, he's got 5 more fights and an hour more of octagon time. Kurt is more durable, in my opinion. He's only been finished twice in 29 pro fights, while Kaynan has been knocked out in his only 2 professional losses. Kurt's chin has been tested against better fighters and bigger hitters than Kaynan's has, and has definitely held up better, so I have to give Kurt the durability advantage in this spot. The pressure and pace is definitely on the Holobaugh side. Kurt categorically refuses to fuck off. He marches forward constantly. He throws with power and purpose, and he drowns his opponents in offensive output, attempting 23 distance strikes per minute. 23, and he lands 8.7 of them. Kurt's style is hard to hold up against because of his combination of forward pressure, durability, and output that he puts on his opponents. His style is very similar to Elvis Brenner, as a matter of fact, and we know Kaynan had trouble with that style last time out. The strength of schedule advantage goes to Kurt here, as he's been tested at a higher level for a longer period of time than Kaynan has. Kurt has definitely faced a better brand of competition as a pro. Now, Kaynan's going to have the measurables advantages here, as he's 4.5 years younger. He's 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage over Krushewsky. And Kaynan's the better minute winner, probably. Kaynan's 2-0 to the decision as a pro, while Kurt is 3-6. Both guys are well-rounded. Both have good conditioning and are very dangerous submission grapplers. But Kaynan seems to be less finish dependent than what Kurt has been as a pro. So I think this fight is going to be a car crash. Both guys have power. Holobaugh is very aggressive wherever the fight goes, and Krushewsky has power in both hands and a very opportunistic submission game of his own. Kurt does have a lot of advantages on paper, being more experienced overall and in the UFC. Having that relentless pressure game on the feet combined with his tricky and aggressive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. Plus, he's faced the better brand of competition as a pro and in the UFC. Now, Kaynan is the younger, bigger, and longer guy. He's well-rounded and dangerous wherever the fight goes, just like Kurt. This one comes down to who lands the bigger shots on the feet and who gets to the more dominant positions on the ground. And I favor Holobaugh and his pressure, pace, output, and durability. Kurt struggles when his opponents can take him down and stay safe from his submission attempts. Kaynan doesn't go to the offensive wrestling enough in order for me to be confident enough that he does win enough minutes with his top control, ground and pound, and submission defense to make up for the deficiency I see him having on the feet due to Holobaugh's pressure and output, as well as the strength of schedule advantage that Kurt has. Kurt's getting older, but his pressure and volume heavy style never goes out of style, and I think it will serve him well here. So I think Kurt Holobaugh is going to win this fight, and I think he's going to win it by second round knockout. Kurt the Hurt by second round KO here. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We got E. Mendoza saying, I like Kaynan here. Kind of felt fight goes to decision. I like the opposite. I like violence here. The way that Kurt Holobaugh fights, I think that these guys are going to swing dicks on the feet. And I think they both have got a lot of power on the feet. And I think that they're both potentially guys that could get knocked out because Kaynan's got a ton of power and Kaynan is also kind of chinny. And they're both so aggressive on the mat as well that I could see there'll be submission opportunities as well. So I like this one to finish inside the distance. I kind of like the under 1.5, and I think the fight doesn't go at better than minus 200 is a decent look as well. Happy you survived that coaster. Yeah, that was close, man. We got Kaynan with Fighting Nerds now. Oh, okay. As soon as I saw that, I knew which way I was going with this one. No wonder, dude. That is a hot camp. No wonder this line is so close because Fighting Nerds is a very good camp. Coaster freaked you out, Weezy. LOL. Whatever you're smoking, please share. Don't be selfish. You just let me know, D. You come over. I got something for your lungs, my man. We got 138 MMA saying, do you put any weight on the fact that Kaynan is coming off of a brutal KO? Do you think it makes him hesitant at all? I don't care if he's hesitant, Tyler, because like Kurt Holobaugh is never going to be hesitant. So I don't think even if Kaynan was hesitant, he's not going to have the opportunity to fight that way because Kurt's just going to stay in his face and is going to be throwing bombs. So I don't think he's going to have the luxury to even act hesitant for a minute here. I think that this fight, that Kurt's going to go out here and just force a fight. And I think somebody's going to get hit really hard fairly early in this fight and that somebody's going to get served. That's what I'm thinking. But let's move on to this next fight as we've got, this is going to be a barn burner. We got Steve, the Mean Machine Garcia at minus 145 going up against Seung-Woo Sting Choi at plus 125. The fight doesn't go to decision here. Juice to the tits at minus 500. The bookies think that this one finishes inside the distance about 83% of the time. So let's get the stats. I think this is going to be such a fun fight. This should be an absolute Donnybrook, like all Steve Garcia fights are, as the bookies are pricing the under 1.5 rounds right now at about minus 185 or a 65% implied probability. We got the Mean Machine Garcia. He's 32 years old, 15-5 as a pro, and he's 4-2 in the UFC so far. He's 4-1 though in his last 5 fights, and all of those fights have ended by KO and under 1.5 rounds. Steve fights like he has rabies. He goes out there throwing tons of volume, and all of those strikes are thrown with hate in his heart. He's on a 3-fight winning streak at the moment, and he's come through as an underdog in all 3 of those fights. Steve won by second round ground and pound knockout against Mel Costa back in December as a plus 215 underdog. By second round body shot KO versus Shayulan Nurdenbeka as a plus 150 underdog. And by first round knockout against Chase Hooper as a plus 245 underdog. Steve will be fighting Seung-Woo Choi, who's a 31-year-old Muay Thai striker who's 11-6 as a pro and 4-5 in the UFC. Troy's coming off a unanimous decision win over Jarno Aarons in August of 2023 as a minus 155 favorite. But prior to the Aarons fight, Troy was on a 3-fight losing streak. He was knocked out in the first round by Mike Trizano as a minus 180 favorite. He lost a split decision to Josh Holobaugh as a minus 225 favorite and was submitted in the second round via rear naked choke by Alex Caceres as a minus 275 favorite. The market has consistently overvalued Seung-Woo Choi and underrated Steve Garcia, so the line of this fight is going to be interesting to watch. Currently, we got Steve Garcia as a minus 145 favorite in this spot. So Garcia is going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. He's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. He's got more pro experience with 3 more fights and about 10 more minutes of cage time, a couple more years as a pro fighter. Steve has been the better finisher as a pro. Steve fights like he's double parked. 5 of his 6 UFC fights ended under 1.5 rounds. The only one that went to decision was against Luis Pena, and Steve was controlled for over 14 of the 15 minutes of that fight. Steve has finished all 4 of his UFC wins by knockout, while Choi has only finished 1 of his 4 UFC wins inside the distance. I definitely give Garcia the majority of the finish equity in this fight, and the bookies tend to agree. Pricing is finish-only prop at about minus 145 here. The striking advantage, I think, goes to Steve Garcia. Steve's opponents do not want to stand with him. Outside of the Ontiveros and the Mahashate fights, pretty much everyone did their best to try to get the fight to the ground. Only 16% of Steve Garcia's UFC octagon time has been spent at distance striking range, which is less than 6 minutes for Steve Garcia. And in those 6 minutes, there have been a grand total of 10 knockdowns in his fights, for or against. Garcia landed 5 and he was dropped 5 times. Garcia brings chaos and he throws bombs. He attempts 24 distance strikes per minute. He lands 11.4 of them. He's got a positive 5 distance striking differential. His knockdown percent is a whopping 3.6%, and he's being dropped on 6.7% of the significant strikes that he absorbs. Steve is extremely accurate and powerful with his hands and his kicks, and his 12-1 career record to the knockout as a pro is evidence of that. Now, Seung-Woo Choi has the UFC experience advantage. He's got 3 more fights, 65 more minutes of octagon time. I think Seung-Woo Choi is the better technical striker. This shapes up to be a striker versus striker match, and while Steve is the wild man chucking bombs, it's Choi who's more technical, smooth, and he also has plenty of power and a solid 6 wins and 2 loss record to the KO as a pro. Choi doesn't offensively grapple much. He prefers to stand and bang. Choi's landed 5 knockdowns in 9 UFC fights, and he's landing a knockdown on 1.4% of the significant strikes that he lands. Choi's straight right hand, left hook combo is really nasty, and he does an excellent job of countering his opponents. Both of these guys have power, and both guys are chinny, so either guy could wind up looking like the better striker here. And the strength of schedule advantage, I think, goes to Choi, as he's got 3 more fights at the UFC level, and his metrics are slightly better than Garcia's when it comes to overall strength of schedule. So this is a great striker versus striker matchup. Both guys have power. Both guys are chinny. Both guys don't offensively grapple much, and these guys have landed and absorbed a grand total of 20 UFC knockdowns in only 63 minutes of combined distance striking time. So we should get a dick measuring contest in the center of the cage here, where someone gets violently served early in the fight. This is a southpaw versus orthodox matchup, and I think that favors Garcia. The southpaw is always more used to fighting orthodox fighters than the other way around, and from what I've seen on tape, Choi is much less comfortable unleashing his offense against opponents who are in the southpaw stance. Choi relies on throwing his rear leg against southpaws, but it's when Choi's opponents are in the orthodox stance that he finds the range with his jab, and then he starts landing that 2-3 combo that he finds knockouts with in the pocket. Garcia has so much power in his left hand and in his kicks, and he's much more accurate at distance, than Choi is. I mean, 48% accuracy. You can see right here for Garcia at distance, but only 32% accuracy for Choi. These guys are well matched in so many ways. They are virtually the same age and size. Both guys have tons of power. Both guys have below average striking defense and are chinny. They have similar abilities in the grappling realm, and they're fairly close in strength of schedule metrics. I see this fight coming down to who lands the bigger shot first. Choi will be looking to land that straight counter right that we saw Mahashate finish Garcia with, and Garcia will be winging huge left hooks and overhands and blasting power kicks with his left leg. I think Garcia lands first because of the southpaw advantage and because Garcia has landed knockdowns at a higher rate, and he's been more accurate and defensively responsible at range. I'm less confident about Garcia winning this fight than I am about somebody getting served in the first round by KO. I'm going to look at the difference between the odds of fight ends in round 1 and what line I would get by balancing either fighter's best available first round KO prop and see which bet makes more sense. But I'm going to pick Garcia to win, but a cheeky first round violence prop is probably what I'm going to be looking to play. But I'm looking for Steve Garcia to go in there and get a first round knockout against Seung-Woo Choi, also known as Sting. What is up with you guys in the chat here? Let's see. Yeah, Kurt is a dog. That's for sure, man. I mean, he just never stops coming forward, never fucks off. He's going to bring an absolute war to Kaynan, and I can't wait for that fight. Blom Dog saying, are you sure he's with Fighting Words now? I hadn't heard that either, but I don't know. So I don't know. Seung-Woo Choi has 6 knockouts, only 1 in the UFC against Julian Erosa. The rest are against subpar competition in Asia. Garcia first round KO, says JP Taylor, and I agree with him. And Alex Ramirez, the general, is in the room taking notes. Lajuan got Steve at minus 138, and he's taking a shot on the over 1.5 at plus 135. I think you can get a better number than that right now. The over 1.5 rounds right now for that fight is plus 155 on Bet Online. So take a look there. It is going to be a sweat, though. Yes. Got him at minus 130. Dream, take that. Yeah, dude. Steve Garcia is just great. So violent. Yeah, he is so violent. No doubt about it. This was the easiest fight to break down in the card, but so the bet will probably go tits up. Oh, that goes sometimes. Friggin' usually the way she goes. Yeah. Let's see. We got sometimes just the way she goes, boys. That's for sure, man. We got Chicken Dinner saying, thanks for going balls deep, Weezy. You are very welcome. We got Useless President saying Choi has horrendous striking defense. I know, man. I know. That's why I'm picking Garcia to win this one. Saw multiple articles that have him listed as a Fight Nerds guy. Not sure since when. Okay. I'm going to have to get a Bet Online account. I hope it's available in my area. If it's not, get a VPN and just get on there. It's a great sports book. Damn, no, Choi all parlay. Oh, you got Choi parlayed up, Kiwi? I mean, dude, I think somebody's getting knocked out early. I'm definitely picking Garcia, but I think a fight ends in round 1 by KO would be a great look at plus money as well. All right, you guys, let's get to this co-main event. It is between Brad Tavares and Jeong-Yeong Park. Tavares plus 139, the Iron Turtle, Jeong-Yeong Park minus 159. Fight doesn't go to decision here at plus money at plus 155. The stats are up on the screen. The trends, after I get a drink of water. All right. Brad Tavares, 36-year-old ultra veteran of the UFC, 24 career UFC fights since the year 2010. He has a career record of 20 wins and 9 losses, and he's 11-8 in the UFC since the year 2013. Brad does appear to be on the downside of his career, having lost 3 of his last 4 fights, but he's been fighting a very high level of competition for a very long time. Brad is coming off a 3rd-round knockout loss against RoboCop Rodriguez. He was a plus 205 underdog in that fight back in February. Before that, he won a unanimous decision against the rotting corpse of Chris Weidman, and he was a minus 245 favorite in that fight. Prior to that, he has back-to-back losses against Bruno Silva by first-round knockout as a minus 160 favorite, and by unanimous decision against the current UFC middleweight champion, Dricus du Plessis, as a plus 150 underdog. Brad is going to be squaring off against the Iron Turtle, Jeong-Yeong Park, 33 years old, 17-6 as a pro, and 7-3, very impressive in the UFC. Park's a well-rounded, well-tested fighter, 6 wins by submission, 5 by knockout, and 6 by decision. He's coming off a loss by split decision against Andre Muniz as a minus 175 favorite, but before that, he was on an impressive 4-fight winning streak and had won 7 of his last 8 UFC fights. Park finished Albert Duraev in the second round by rear naked choke as a minus 155 favorite. He destroyed Denis Tialulin in the first round as a minus 225 favorite, choked out Joseph Holmes as a minus 225 favorite when they fought, and before that, he won a very close split decision over Eric Anders as a minus 200 favorite. The guys Park has finished are either complete quitters with no gas tank like Duraev and Holmes, or just Denis Tialulin, who stinks on ice. This is a questionable at best excuse for a co-main event, and Jeong-Yeong Park is currently a minus 160 favorite over the wily veteran in Brad Tavares, the plus 140 underdog here. So Tavares, the bigger dude, 3 inches taller, 1 inch reach advantage, overall experience advantage with 6 more pro fights and an hour and a half more of cage time, 6.5 more years as a pro. He's also got the UFC experience advantage with 9 more fights and 130 more minutes of octagon time since 2013. And Brad has the strength of schedule advantage as he's fought and beaten the more experienced brand of UFC competition with the better win-loss ratios. Jeong-Yeong Park is 3 years younger than Tavares. He's the better finisher. Brad Tavares couldn't finish a banana. He's finished 1 of his 11 UFC wins since the year 2013, while Park has finished 3 of his 7 UFC wins. Park has a 64% career finish rate compared to only 35% for Tavares. So especially with Park being the younger guy who throws more volume, I definitely have to rate him as the guy more likely to win moments in this fight as well, wherever it ends up. I think Jeong-Yeong Park might be the better striker. I think he's the better boxer for sure. He definitely is the guy who throws more volume as he's attempting 15.6 distance strikes attempt per minute compared to only 10 for Brad Tavares. He lands more distance strikes per minute at 7.5 compared to only 4.2 for Tavares. And he's 6% more accurate than Tavares is at distance. He's also very durable, having never been knocked down in the UFC, while Tavares has been dropped 6 times in his last 19 UFC fights. And I think that Jeong-Yeong Park's a very slick grappler. I think he's got the grappling advantage in this fight. Park's been the more efficient grappler in the UFC, but since Tavares has such top-notch takedown defense, I don't really see Park getting this fight to the ground unless he lands a knockdown. Park is the more active offensive wrestler who wins a larger percentage of his fight's control time positions, but I do think this fight comes down to who wins the striking exchanges. So, not sure what to do with this fight, but I do think it plays out a little bit closer than the line suggests. Brad has the size, the experience, the strength, the schedule advantages, and Park is younger. He's been in better recent form, and he throws more volume on the feet, and he's got a slicker submission game, having finished his last 3 wins by sub. Brad has excellent takedown defense, so I do think this fight plays out mostly on the feet. If that's the case, I think Park's jab will score quite a bit, but if he relies on that jab too much, he could get his calf kicked quite a bit by Tavares. Park will throw more volume at range, and Tavares will look to land that calf kick to discourage Park from popping that jab too much. I think this fight plays out close. I think it probably goes the full 15 minutes, and we see Jeong-Yeong Park edge out a decision. My model thinks the over 2.5 rounds is overpriced, but I do think it hits. So I'll lean with the youth, the volume, and the better recent form on the Park side to get the dub here, and I'll pick Jeong-Yeong Park to win this fight by decision. Iron Turtle, stand up. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Tavares plus 150, stabbing KO plus 550. I think Brad can keep it on the feet and batter Turtle for his second UFC KO. We'll see about that. I mean, that would be a great KO win to get a guy in Park who I don't think has ever been knocked out. Useless Present saying Turtle getting closer to minus 150, making me tempted. E. Mendoza saying I like Tavares to pull it out. Kind of lean, fight goes to decision. There you go. JP saying I got Park and I'm eating negative CLV currently at minus 180. Not loving the side as much regardless. I might hedge on Tavares by decision. Not a bad look. I think that's how Tavares wins. Press the like button, says my guy Alex Ramirez. Olajuwon Dream saying Tavares has been in there with 3 champs. I mean, like DDP, Izzy, and Weidman, even though Weidman was a shell of himself. Matthew saying stinks on ice. That could be as good as 7 shades of shit. He does, dude. I mean, like Tia Lulin stinks on ice, and he is going to be facing off against SD Special Delivery Dumas in Abu Dhabi in about 2.5 weeks. So we will be seeing the return of Dennis Stinks on Ice Tia Lulin, which is the new nickname I'm giving him. Olajuwon Dream saying Tavares never been submitted. Yeah, so that's why I think it's a pretty good fight that probably goes to decision. But the market sees it the same way, and that price has been overpriced according to my betting model. But I think it hits. All Turtles finishes were rear naked chokes. Yes, they were. He gets the opponent's back. That's the best way to grapple. 2-unit play on Brad, says J-Bone, for plus money here. That'll probably get you at least 3 units if it hits. Took some Park sub at plus 900. If he does manage to get the back, he probably gets it done. Yeah, I mean, potentially. I think at plus 900, my betting model actually really liked that number. If you look at the betting template here, and if I were to do this and increase these to 24, I think. Yeah, there we go. You could see that Jeong-Yeong Park by sub, 3 of 7 wins inside the distance by sub, but Tavares has never lost by sub. But my model prices it at about 13.78%, but we're only paying 10% at plus 900. So my model does like it, but you got to keep in mind that Tavares has been finished 5 times in his career, all 5 by KO. He's never been submitted. So, and Tavares also has very good takedown defense. So I think that, maybe if Park does get a sub, it might be a club and sub. Alex Ramirez, not a fan of Brad Tavares. Jay Bone saying this is a guy that needs wrestling success to win a decision against one of the best takedown defense in the UFC. This line should be closer. I agree with you, man. I really do think that this is going to play out closer than what the line suggests because it's going to be on the feet. And Tavares could land a ton of calf kicks if Jeong-Yeong Park relies too much on that jab. Happy with the plus 150 is Olajuwon. Tavares bettors are assuming he wins a striking battle, which he might not, considering Park is higher volume. And yeah, Park is the much higher volume striker for sure. Let me resize this back, you guys. Just wanted to show you what my betting model said about that 900 sub. It is a trifecta bet on my model, but I would probably rather bet the inside the distance. Well, maybe a plus 215. I don't know. It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say because Park's never knocked anyone out at the UFC level, but Tavares has been knocked out in 5 of 7 losses, and Park has only submitted people when he's won inside the distance, and Tavares has never been submitted. I think all the sparring with Strickland has not helped Brad's durability. That's a lot of sparring, yes. That is fair. I just don't think Turtle is going to show Brad anything he hasn't seen. That's probably true, too. All right, you guys, that brings us to the main event of the evening. And it is going to be a very handsome main event at that, as we have Amanda Lemos facing off against Virna Karkara Jandiroba. We've got Amanda Lemos, the plus 110 underdog. Virna, the favorite here at minus 130. Fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up at minus 180 for this fight. You guys hit that thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the great content. Leave me a comment down below, and please consider joining the Patreon if you want access to these phenomenal stats and you want to support my work outside of the YouTube community. But let's get into this main event here, as we've got a solid women's strawweight main event between a dangerous, powerful striker in Amanda Lemos and a dominant minute and moment winning grappler in Virna Jandiroba. Handsome striker versus handsome grappler matchup here to headline the card. Amanda Lemos, 37 years old, 14-3-1 as a pro and 8-3 in the UFC. She's won 3 of her last 4 fights, with the only loss being a brutal 5-round unanimous decision ass shaving at the hands of the current strawweight champion, Zhang Li. She was a plus 260 underdog in that fight. Amanda's last fight was a unanimous decision win over Mackenzie Dern as a minus 135 favorite back in February. Before the loss to Zhang, Amanda beat Marina Rodriguez by 3rd round knockout as a plus 185 underdog and submitted Michelle Waterson by guillotine choke in the 2nd round as a minus 300 favorite. Amanda's going to be fighting Virna Jandiroba, an elite grappler who's on a 3-fight winning streak. Virna's 36 years old, 20-3 as a pro, and she's 6 wins and 3 losses in the UFC so far. Virna's strung together 3 unanimous decision wins over Lupe Godinez as a plus 190 underdog, Marina Rodriguez as a minus 105 underdog, and Angela Hill as a minus 200 favorite. Over this 3-fight winning streak, Virna has been 8 of 24 on her takedown attempts, and she's out-controlling her opponents 57% to 9%, winning over 86% of the control time positions of those fights. So Virna needs to get this fight to the mat, and Lemos needs to keep it standing. Virna Jandiroba, the current minus 130 favorite here. So Lemos has got the measurables advantages here, being 1 inch taller, having a 1 inch reach advantage, and being the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Amanda has got the UFC experience advantage with 2 more fights at the UFC level. And this fight is Amanda's 3rd UFC fight scheduled for 5 rounds, while Virna has never been scheduled for 5 rounds at the UFC level. But Virna was scheduled for 5 rounds twice in Invicta because she was the Invicta strawweight champion. So she has been scheduled for 5 rounds twice, and she has went the distance 5 rounds once, just like Amanda Lemos has. It's just that Amanda has more current 5-round experience, and that experience comes against UFC-level opponents. So I think that's important to note. Now, the striking advantage goes to Amanda Lemos. She's so much better on the feet, it's not even funny. Amanda has a positive 0.5 distance striking differential compared to negative 0.9 for Jandiroba. Amanda has insane power for a strawweight. She's landed a knockdown on 1.6% of the significant strikes that she lands. Her UFC knockdown ratio is 6-1, and she's finished 3 of her 8 UFC wins by way of KO, and she's 8-1 to the knockout as a professional. Amanda has power and precision at range, and frankly, Virna's striking is hot ass. So other than Amanda having to worry about the threat of the takedown or the clinch entries at range, she's going to be the much better minute and moment winner while this fight is at distance striking range. Now, Virna Jandiroba is 1 year younger. She's got the overall experience advantage with 5 more professional fights and a little bit more than an hour more of professional cage time in about 1 more year as a pro fighter. And Virna's got the wrestling and the grappling advantages here. She does her best work when she dominates the grappling exchanges. She's averaging 2.4 takedowns per 15 minutes on 6.5 attempts. That's 36% accuracy. And she has above average 74% takedown defense. And she outcontrols her opponents 38% to 15%, winning over 72% of the control time positions that her fights are in. Virna's a high-level BJJ black belt. She's 13 wins and 0 losses to the submission as a professional. She's aggressive on the mat, whether she's in top or bottom position, and she will sell out trying to finish fights as she averages 1.25 submission attempts per 15 minutes. Amanda Lemos has subpar 57% takedown defense, and she's been outcontrolled by her opponents 34.6% to 15.5%. So she's shown weaknesses where Virna is at her strongest. So Virna is going to be looking to grapple here in order to maximize her win condition. So it's a very interesting striker versus grappler main event. Lemos is slightly bigger and longer. She's the southpaw. She has the UFC experience advantage, having 2 more UFC fights and 2 more fights scheduled for 5 rounds at the UFC level. Virna is a little younger. She has more overall experience, and she's without a doubt the better minute and moment winner in the grappling exchanges. The first thing that needs to be mentioned is that I think Lemos' fight IQ is not good. She willingly grapples with opponents she should be selling out to strike against, like Zhang Wei Li and Mackenzie Dern. Amanda is far too comfortable going with the flow of the fight, and she doesn't seem to realize when she should disengage from the clinch or top control positions to get back to the striking. Virna's striking is hot garbage, and I'm not sure if she can push a wrestling, grappling heavy pace against someone who hits as hard as Amanda for the full 5 rounds without being separated from her consciousness at some point. I think the longer this fight goes, the less likely it is to finish. The under 2.5 rounds, that opened at plus 170 on BetOnline Sportsbook, but it currently got bet down to around plus 125 as of about 1:30 a.m. Central Time Wednesday morning. It's also important to note that Virna had over 25 minutes of control time over her last 3 fights and was unable to secure a submission. So maybe Virna wins the minutes of this fight with her grappling, but I think Lemos finds big, powerful fight-changing shots at points in this fight in the first 3 rounds and probably gets a knockout. As long as Amanda can stay safe from the ground and pounded submission attempts like she did in the Zhang and the Dern fights, then she should absolutely land massive shots on the feet against Virna. If this were 3 rounds, I'd feel a lot more confident about Virna not getting chin checked at some point, but this is scheduled for 5, and Virna's striking is so bad. I think Lemos is a solid underdog play this week. I like her knockout prop at better than plus 200, and Virna by control time-based decision is also a decent look in my opinion, but that line isn't wide enough for my liking. But for the main event, I am going to go with the underdog here and pick Amanda Lemos to win by 2nd round KO. Let's save those picks. And let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Let's see. B-Negs says this is Lemos or pass. I'm picking Lemos as well. JP Taylor saying, indeed a handsome matchup. I cannot see it sullying it by placing a wager. Yeah. Yuck, Garcia KO lines. They're just not good. I know, man. What did you see, Useless? And he's saying plus 125. We got Alex taking notes saying, yeah, they're all over it, says B-Negs. Kareem Abello saying, Uncle, how did Bleed MMA passed away? I don't know how he passed. All I know is that it was sudden and completely unexpected. So rest in peace, Bleed. This did happen like about a couple of months ago. But yeah, man, I don't know how he passed away, but I just know it was sudden. We got the bookie man in the room saying, I'm going with Raul Rosas' brother by submission. Rounds 3 or 4. He likes Jandiroba by submission. I like it. Useless President saying maybe we value on round 2, 3 KO at plus 1,000 and plus 1,800. That's not a bad look. JP Taylor, I think 1-2 is the way. Sorry, back to Lemos and Jandiroba. Yeah. Nigel Lee saying, we all know the rule to betting this fight. I will also bet the least pretty woman in this scenario. Plus, Virna is going to have confused looking at the floor in her corner at the same time. That could definitely happen. JP saying, handsome is in the eye of the beholder. It definitely is. No, Lemos is the only side to play or no bet, says B-Negs. Lemos is much more athletic. I feel like Jandiroba's takedowns are lazy and slow. Yeah, but she's pretty good. I mean, like when she does get the timing right, she gets in on the hips, and once she gets you down, her control is phenomenal. But yeah, Lemos is way more athletic, way more smooth. Nigel Lee likes it. Close fight, says Blonde He leans Virna sub. Lemos tapping to a standing head and arm choke to Andrade is very concerning. Look at the strength of schedule, says B-Negs. they've both fought good fighters. According to my metric, the ratio of wins to losses of that they've fought is both 1.3. The number of fights is both 11.4. Just my strength of schedule metric likes Jandiroba's wins just a little bit more, and Amanda Lemos's losses just a little bit more. But my metric has it very, very similar in terms of strength of schedule, because Jandiroba's had some very tough fights. Useless Present saying only person to really take her down was Wei Lee. I'm all over the Lemos money line. Lemos says Alex Ramirez. Virna got a funny hat, so I wouldn't bet against her. Lazy eyes are lucky in my book as well. Yes. We got feel like Durden is a more dangerous grappler. I think she'll be fine against Virna. Yeah, I mean, Virna's maybe a little bit more aggressive, though, with her submission attempts. And I think a little bit better at getting fights to the ground by any means necessary. We got Lajuan saying, let's go. We got Josh saying, chi wee wee. We got Blom Dog saying, guy can't spell no. Nigel saying, Kareem, I believe he passed in his sleep. His wife didn't really give out any additional info. And Clark saying, boy, oi, Uncle W, I missed the majority of the stream. Sorry. Question, can Barbosa beat Maverick? I never liked Maverick. She always lost me money. Yeah, I mean, I think Barbosa's live to get a win here, but I think she's going to have a lot of early success in order to do that. She's got to bank round 1, and I think that it's going to be hard to bank round 2 or 3 against Miranda, who's probably going to be in better condition. She didn't take the fight on short notice like Barbosa did, so I am leaning to the Maverick side, but I don't hate taking the shot on Barbosa at like plus 180, plus 190. It's not a bad look. Barbosa's a good fighter. But that does it, you guys. We made it through all 12 fights. Let me quickly give you the dog pick of the week and Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, and we can get out of here. This week's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week is going to be the Do-Ho Choi money line at plus 140. Small cage, I think, favors Choi. I think Choi's got a big-time power differential on the feet here. I like his pressure optically. There's going to be less room in this small cage for Algeo to move and maintain distance and avoid that pressure and that big right hand of Do-Ho Choi. I think Do-Ho Choi had a much better performance against Kyle Nelson than Bill Algeo did recently. I think Choi's being a little bit underrated here because he hasn't fought a lot recently, but I like that power differential. Whenever I'm getting an underdog, but that underdog is considered more likely to finish the fight on the finish only prop, in this damage over control judging environment that we have, I'm trying to lean towards those guys that land the bigger shots. So I think the Do-Ho Choi money line at plus 140 is a great underdog play this week. I'm going to be looking at that Choi KO prop as well, and I'm going to probably play some combination of the two, a Choi KO prop and the Choi money line prop to try to win some money here. But Do-Ho Choi, I think he's going to win and win violently here, and he is the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week, which leaves us with the last order of business of the week. It's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. We were on an 10 or 11 week winning streak. And 3 weeks ago, we picked Ricky Simon for the ass shaving of the week over Vinicius Oliveira. And that went over like a fart in church, ladies and gentlemen. It was not great. Ricky Simon looked awful. And frankly, Vinicius looked great. So we broke the winning streak here. There are a lot of closely lined fights on this card. I'm trying to pick somebody that's going to win and win violently. I was looking at Jeong-Yeong Lee here, but I do think that the longer that fight goes on, that Hyder Amil is going to become more and more live, especially late in the second round and in the third round with the way that he fights. Even though I do think Jeong-Yeong Lee is going to get an early finish, I do tend to think that it's not the safest pick in the world. So I'm going to actually kind of lean with one of my stylistic reads this week. And your Uncle Weezy's, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Let's see. He's in there, spell check nerds here. And we got ring a ding ding, you guys. JP Taylor with the $10 donation saying, thanks, Weezy. Appreciate you. Sending good vibes and a sawbuck your way. Truly appreciate the kind words and the donation to the show, JP. We got B-Neg saying, look at Virna's last 6 fights and please tell me what you're impressed by. Well, it would be me. It would be the grappling. It would be the grappling. She won round 1 against Amanda Hebas with a takedown and a knockdown. She's won 8 of her last 9 rounds against Lupe Godinez, Marina Rodriguez, and Angela Hill. Broke Kaneko Murata's arm in half. She's a phenomenal grappler, and she's a much better grappler than Amanda Lemos. That would be what would impress me, but I still think that this is a better spot for Lemos. She's got more 5-round experience. She's fought the better level of competition recently, I would say, and in the last 4 fights, I would say 3 fights actually. And yeah, so I mean, like, I think it's a great main event, striker versus grappler. I think somebody probably gets finished in the first 2.5 rounds, but I would have betted at plus 170, but now not at plus 125. Blonde Dog saying sorry. We got Elijah saying a fart in church. Yes. Garcia going to shave some ass, says JP Taylor. I once farted in church in grade 7. It vibrated off the wooden pew so loud. I will never forget that. Yeah, man. And people don't like it in church for some reason. But, you know, we're only as God made us, is what I said when I farted in church. So, you know, I don't know how you argue with that one. But either way, you guys, your Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week this week is going to be Steve Garcia to shave the ass of Seung-Woo Choi. I do worry about how chinny Garcia is. I do. But I think that him being a southpaw really favors him in this matchup. I think that his left hand is his best weapon, and it's going to be wide open for business against the orthodox fighter in Seung-Woo Choi. I don't like how Seung-Woo Choi is a lot more tentative throwing offense when his opponent is in the southpaw stance, like Steve Garcia is going to be. And I think Garcia is the much more accurate and powerful striker at range. So I think Steve Garcia is not only going to go out there and win the fight, but I think he's going to win it early and spectacularly via shaving the ass of Seung-Woo Choi. 52 of you still live hanging out here on YouTube with your Uncle Weezy. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for hanging out. Thank you for your support. Thank everybody on my Patreon. I'd like to take the time to thank you guys personally. I didn't do any content last week, and I only had a couple of people unsubscribe from the Patreon, even though I didn't even provide them with any content other than the stat sheets and updating the betting lines. So I'd like to take this minute here to thank the people who have supported me on the Patreon, who let me kind of heal after last week's horrible event with my girlfriend getting bit in the face by our rescue dog. And it was a rough week and a half, but I'm glad to be back to business. Glad to be back here working for you guys, picking fights and finding the spots that stick out so that we can stack cash tickets like flapjacks together and have even more fun watching the sport that we love to watch while we're making money betting on it. Thank you guys for hanging out. We got Blonde Dog saying thanks, Weezy. We got Useless President saying Tavares plus 3.5 minus 145 parlay piece. That's not a bad look. I think he can win around here. When I was in 6th grade, I let one rip and it boomed like a Mark McGuire home run. Cheers, appreciated, says Kiwi. B-Neg saying he couldn't hold it. Great show, Weezy, says Olajuwon. No, we did not keep the dog, unfortunately. We tried to find anybody that would take the dog from us, but my girlfriend just didn't feel safe around him anymore. And he had also tried to bite my brother and a couple other guests of the house. He was just too unpredictable. We could not keep him, unfortunately. And we got appreciate the breakdown, says my guy, Grateful Dude. Rest in peace to my rescue dog, Maceo. I love that dog. My girlfriend loved him. We're going to miss him terribly. And I hope that he has a better life in the next one. One of the most heartbreaking things I've ever had to do. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for supporting me. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for hitting that thumbs up. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for leaving me a comment. Thank you for supporting me on Patreon. And thank you so much for all the kind words and well wishes for my girlfriend and her recovery from this horrible incident. We will see you guys 8 o'clock Central Time, DFS by the Numbers channel for the DFS show. And if you are a $25 member of the Patreon, keep an eye out for Probability 9:30 Central Time tonight, where we were going to go and look through the betting models that I've created to find some plus EV spots that we can stick out and make for bets this week. So DFS show at 8, Probability at 9:30. Keep an eye out for a greasy 4-leg parlay on Friday on this channel. And the only thing left to do, let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 94. And you guys have a great rest of your week. God bless and take it easy.